Welcome to our meeting. The date is July 29, 2025. The time is 6:02 p.m. This is an open meeting of the Grand Island City Council. The City of Grand Island abides by the Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is displayed in the back of this room as required by state law. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will now perform roll call.
Council President Sheard.
Present.
Councilmember Stelk.
Present.
Councilmember Conley.
Present.
Councilmember Nickerson.
Present.
Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Hazy.
Present.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember Pollock.
Present.
Councilmember Lanfear.
Present.
And Mayor Steele.
Present. Also present are Jill Grenier, the city clerk, Laura McAloon, the city administrator, Patrick Brown, the assistant city administrator and chief financial officer, Carrie Fisk, the city attorney, and Keith Kurtz, the public works director. A sign-up sheet was available in the lobby for individuals wishing to provide input on any of tonight's agenda items. If you did not sign up to speak on an agenda item, please come forward, state your name and the agenda topic on which you will be speaking. No one has come forward, so we shall continue. The next item on our agenda is 5A, Fiscal Year 26 Contract and Funding Request for Grow Grand Island. Good evening. Please state your name for the record.
Anya Brown, 611 Sandalwood Drive, Chair of Grow Grand Island. First of all, thank you for giving us your attention tonight. I saw the agenda, and you have what could be a pretty full night, so we will do our best to be very concise, to the point. I'll work very hard to stick close to my notes so I don't go down any rabbit holes myself. Let me open up our PowerPoint if you don't mind. Sticky mouse. Okay, looks like we have a little font issue between my version and your version, so that's going to make these a little hard to read. I did want to provide just a little bit of background, understanding there may be people viewing that don't know about Grow Grand Island. Obviously, we were established in 2016 out of a visioning effort. We've had a contract for the last 9 years with the city for a $500,000 allocation, and we also have other funding from private investments, grants, in-kind, partnership, leveraging of the sort. I did also want to, for the sake especially of people who might be viewing, just talk a little bit briefly about the ordinance that was put in place that allows for the funding of Grow Grand Island. Just quoting some pieces out of it, with consideration of just, proper, and equitable distribution, the food and beverage tax shall be designated for use in the following order. City's quarterly payments to the Nebraska State Fair support. Number 2, promote entertainment, agricultural, and livestock shows, trade shows, and similar events that will attract visitors. Number 3, the ongoing enhancement and development of recreation and athletic facilities such as hike, bike, and recreation trails, ball fields, and other community activity needs. And 4, invest in community development projects and activities that stimulate progress and growth for Grand Island. Obviously, Grow Grand Island works heavily in probably number 2 and number 4. Our mission, whoops, I just had it up there. Our mission, cultivate bold ideas by planning, partnering, and doing. I put a graphic up here, power of leverage, because that's something we have learned over our 9 years, the power of leveraging. We have an executive committee made up of these people. The core partners are the Chamber and EDC, Tourism. We have their presidents plus one representative from their board. Additional partners include the Fauner Campus CEO and a board representative, and most recently, the Greater Grand Island Community Foundation CEO. We have 5 at-large business and community members, 2 liaisons from Hall County Commissioners, and that is currently Ron Peterson, who's here tonight, thank you, and Pam Lancaster. And then we have 3 liaisons from the city, 2 from City Council, which are Mark Stelk and Chuck Hazy, and then 1 from administration, who is Patrick Brown. Just a quick by the numbers. To date, we've completed 26 projects, have 4 projects in progress. But I wanted to pay more attention to the bottom row. And it was kind of hard to read, but of those completed and in-progress projects, excluding Conestoga Marketplace and Epic Discovery Center, they total $6.5 million. GGI funded $2.3 million of that, which means that we were leveraging other funding sources to the tune of $4.2 million. In your packet, I would have given you a list of all of those Grow Grand Island projects that are completed or in progress, and it shows each of the grant amounts and the leveraged amounts. But what we wanted to do tonight, instead of me talking in depth about those things that are in your packet, just wanted to put a highlight on a few projects tonight, and then I'll come back after the presenters have talked about those projects and wrap things up. So we're going to look Heartland Shooting Park. I'll be asking Tom Bush, he's the shooting park manager, to give a quick summary on that. Following him will be Brad Mellema with tourism, and he is going to talk about event incentives. And then following him will be Emily Loudenclass. She is with the Grand Island Chamber, and she's going to talk about our internship program. I'll come back up then at that time to talk a little bit about how we're supporting the Good Life District. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tom Bush. Let me just say, specifically, I asked him to talk about the Olympic bunker trap. This is one of our earlier projects that we did. It was probably within the first couple years of our existence, and it's one of those projects that you just don't hear a lot about, and so that's one of the reasons why we wanted it highlighted.
Good evening. Tom Bush, Heartland Public Shooting Park, and we'll talk a little bit about the Olympic bunker facility that was installed, not 100% sure, 2017, 2018, Brad, Neil? Somewhere right in that area. It was before Hornady took over the shooting park. Olympic bunker trap is different than normal. I mean, you've got Donovan. Donovan has, 28 or 29 trap fields. You've got Lincoln Trap and Skeet. You got all those guys. The international bunker is really, really neat because instead of having one machine down inside there and 5 different shooting positions, you actually have 15 machines. So each station has an option for 3 different machines. So it has been known, it's been called gentleman's trap. So the algorithm, the computer, you tell the computer how many people is going to be shooting it. It gives you an algorithm. That way you can never determine what you're going to be shooting next. You can't game the game. They have a dress code. If you're shooting an actual legit international bunker trap, there's a dress code to it. The clay targets, they go a lot faster. They run up to upwards of about 70 miles an hour. The shooting sequence, as I said, is very strict and controlled. Each shooter will shoot from 5 different positions, and that programmed deal is what picks it up. We use this year for the first time with Cornhusker State games. We're the only international bunker trap within about 10 hours of here. And if you're an international bunker trap shooter, you know where every one of them is across the country. So we get folks, just random people stopping in. They plan trips. When they're going to go to a big shoot, they'll plan a trip and they will practice either on their way to an event or on their way back from an event. So we get people from Texas and Ohio and Minneapolis, and we get them from all over. One of our bigger proponents, or one of our bigger shooters, advocates for the international bunker, his name is Steve Lucian. Steve asked me about 3 months ago to try to run the Senior Open in 27 possibly 28, which would attract about another 200-ish shooters. It'd be a 4-day event, so that'd put more people inside the city of Grand Island, eating at the restaurants, staying at the hotels and stuff like that. Steve Lucian, I wanted him to run it for Cornhusker State Games. Unfortunately, he was shooting International Bunker in Italy, so he was not able to attend. The handful of folks that we did have come for the Cornhusker State Games came out of Texas. How they got onto the Cornhusker State Games is beyond me. I do have contact info. I was pretty busy that day, so I didn't get to talk to him that day, but I will try to figure out how they found out about little old Grand Island, Nebraska and the Heartland Public Shooting Park. We're also hosting the IPSC Shotgun World Qualifier. It's one of 4 events across the country that IPSC is putting on. We said we wanted to host one last August and got a bid in on it, and our bid was accepted. So we'll be the last qualifier for the IPSC World Shoot that is going to take place in 2026. Grow Grand Island helped contribute about $150,000 in funding. The rest of it was privately raised by Kent Cohen, Tim O'Connor, John Hoggett, some folks like that is where that came from. It was kind of those guys' driving point and the Grow Grand Island to really help that out. According to Brad Melma and Grand Island Tourism, we've helped contribute to $229,446 back to the city in 2024. And that goes back to lodging, transportation, food rental, so if folks are coming in to utilize that event. This is probably one of our most popular events when the 4-H National's in town. So this last year in 2025, we had 740 kids from 40 different states come out and compete. These guys threw in excess of 219,000 projectiles downrange without a single incident. So that's in between the 9 different disciplines. International bunker is not a discipline that these guys shoot, but we open it up for families, for coaches, and for the kids to shoot. And I think I had guys over there for about 5 hours the day that we opened it up. It was just a constant line of folks traveling through that. So it's a lot of fun if you've never been around that and you find yourself a really good trap shooter. If you show up to International Bunker and can hit 10, you're probably doing pretty good. And that is it. Oh, I guess maybe not. I guess we talked about this a little bit at the very beginning. So did I go the wrong way here? Maybe I did. There we go. There's a picture of our International Bunker. Apologize for that. Sometimes range monkeys have a really hard time with technology, I guess. So this is at the far south end or the far west end of the trap and skeet fields, if you guys have ever been out there. It is a massive bunker. The 2 pieces that stick up on the ends of it, when those guys decided to pour this, and you guys helped along with that, they decided to put in 2 more trap fields on the east and the west end of that. That would actually bring us up to a total of 10 trap fields. That project had never really been completed. We've got plans to make that happen, hopefully in the next year. The inside of the bunker, and these are the Briley machines that were put inside there. So these are the 15 machines that sit across the face of that throw that clay pigeon at about 70 miles an hour. Heartfelt thanks goes out to the Grow Grand Island Foundation for their general support and all the other folks that help raise the money for this. This is a world-class facility, and hopefully we can bring more and more events for the International Bunker here. It is a very unique and a very niche crowd. Like I said, these guys all know where we're already at. So if we can get somebody that really is involved in that shooting sport to help drive the event, we will help promote it and we will run it and help be that facility. So hopefully this investment strengthens Grand Island position as a destination for the national and international shooting events, which hopefully in the last year we've shown you that we're really, really in tune to doing. Thanks for helping us grow shooting sports in Nebraska and beyond. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
What's that?
You can advance this.
Yeah, you gotta hit the down button, Brad, not up.
Oh, look at that. Event Incentive Fund. Brad Mellema, Director of Grand Island Tourism. It's good to be in front of you again talking about Grow Grand Island this time. And I was asked to speak a little bit about the impacts of events and the dollars that we spend for incentives. So first of all, the word incentive is just that. If you go shopping and have a coupon for a little dollars off on something, it makes it more attractive to come, correct? Well, we deal in big events, major events, sometimes small, but we really focus in on those larger game-changing events. And what does it take to get us to be competitive with other communities that might offer similar facilities or amenities to get that event to decide to choose Grand Island? And this is how it's done in our industry. It's not unique to Grand Island in any way at all. And so I got a couple of quick numbers, and being city council members, you're good at absorbing millions of dollars very quickly, right, and processing all that. But I think it will help you to understand a little bit. So this year we had the Nebraska Coaches Association Cheer and Dance Championships. They've been here for many years. In fact, Hugh Miner brought them to Fauner Park when the Heartland Event Center was very first built. And they have been coming ever since. And the 2025 had a direct business sales impact of $4.2 million on our community. One event. $4.2 million. So let's drive into the direct sales, and then you extrapolate it out. So meaning direct is the cost of doing business, hotels, all those types of things. And then when you extrapolate it out, people eat, they buy fuel, they go shopping, they do lots of things. So 2.7 million for direct impacts, 4.2. We did, I didn't jot down the exact number, but it was between $25,000 and $30,000 to incentivize an event like this to come to Grand Island. So what's the return on investment? What's the return on investment? How is that money worth it to us as a community? So a couple of quick notes. In sales tax, which is something that you're familiar with, we had a direct sales tax of both state and local of $56,000 from one event. So that gets into your world very, very deeply in terms of that. Of course, the state takes a little more than the city does, but that's money coming straight into Grand Island's city coffers from an event such as that. A couple of interesting pieces of information that I grabbed. This is from 2023, but this is off the state tourism website from the Dean Runyon reports on taxes in Hall County. And we got a combined, in 2023, 13.7 million combined state and local taxes from tourism activities. $13.7 million in taxes, and so local taxes were 3.6 and 10.1 for state tax receipts as a direct result of tourism activities. And so that is on top of, if you go a little deeper with the numbers, we had $178 million in direct travel spending in Hall County. Okay, $178 million. So they're coming through the airport. They're coming through off the interstate. They're getting to Grand Island and they're finding amazing things. Just a couple other notes. I've had so much fun with my job the last 10 days. I've entertained 2 nationwide events that came to our community that they're seeking, but we're looking at 2028. And so getting dollars for 2028, I can't really commit dollars for 2028 because they haven't been approved yet through our Hall County sources and other things like that. But assuming business goes forward, we do work with groups those distances out to get the facilities, to get things done, and to make it happen. But just today, literally this morning, I was working with an event for 2028. It would involve some city facilities, and it takes a lot of time to plan these things out. But dollars and incentives are a part of how this stuff works. And the Grow Grand Island partnerships, the last thing I'd be remiss if I didn't say, you're not the only one at the table financially with the Grow Grand Island funds. We had in 2025 approximately $117,000 to do 10 different events specifically, but there's over 34 events that those and other sources combined for a total of $277,000. Okay, so maybe a third or less of those funds come from these sources, and there's other sources that provide that. So it's not doing the heavy lifting all on its own. And the last thing that I'd like to say before I have our next person come up, if you look at the food and beverage ordinance that the voters approved for the funding for food and beverage that helps to support Grow Grand Island's effort, and I'm just going to read them. And Mr. Nickerson brought this up at a city council meeting a few weeks ago, and I thought it was really interesting, so I looked them up. And there's, I think, 4 things. To make cities quarterly payments to the Nebraska State Fair. promote entertainment, agricultural, and livestock shows, trade shows, and similar events that will attract visitors to Grand Island. Ongoing enhancement and development of recreation and athletic facilities such as hike, bike, and recreation trails, ball fields, and other community activity needs, and invest in community development projects and activities that stimulate progress and growth for Grand Island. So that kind of spreads out how the voters approved the monies for this, and we think the Grow Grand Island is critical, and wanted to give you an update on the effectiveness of those funds. And I think I dropped my clip. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Laudencloss, and I am the Workforce Development Director with the Grand Island Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm excited to share a story of vision, investment, and momentum. A story that starts with catalyst funding from Grow Grand Island and is already transforming into meaningful outcomes for our community. Not long ago, Grow Grand Island made a strategic investment to support the early development of the Wayne State Career Scholars Program. This wasn't just a financial contribution. It was a bold signal of belief in the power of partnerships, in the importance of developing local talent, and in the potential of young professionals to shape the future of Grand Island. That funding helped kickstart a program that is now delivering results, and I'm thrilled to announce that as a direct outcome of this investment, Grand Island will welcome 15 interns next week through the Career Scholars Program. These students represent a broad range of disciplines, interests, and ambitions. But what unifies them is their desire to contribute, learn, and grow. They'll be living together in the former OfficeNet building, which has been repurposed into housing to support this initiative, bringing new life and energy into our downtown space. And we're not stopping there. To ensure these interns feel truly connected to our community, we're integrating them into the young professionals group that I have the privilege to lead. Through this group, they'll engage in local networking events, professional development, and service opportunities, getting a real taste of what life and leadership in Grand Island can be. This just isn't about summer internships. This is about long-term talent retention. It's about showing these young leaders what's possible here and helping them see Grand Island not just as a stop on their journey, but as a place they might want to call home. To Grow Grand Island, thank you for seeing the potential in this program and investing in its beginnings. You've planted a seed that is already growing, and with continued support, the impact will only multiply. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Just as a note, I met with Dr. Ramus yesterday, and she is very impressed with the work you were doing.
All right, I was hoping we'd be done by 6:30, so I'm going to breeze through some stuff pretty darn fast here. I did want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about the Good Life District campaign. We're all familiar with it, but Grow Grand Island's role in that was to do the Good Life for Grand Island vote. We were out there advocating for the for vote. That was definitely an all-hands-on-deck sort of process. We had to work within a very cramped time frame. But I think what it does is it illustrates our ability to be nimble, and it's also an illustration of how well we can work together as a partner with the city. It is important to note that the campaign was paid for with private money, so there's no food and beverage money that was used for that. Also, as you know, we are facilitating a Good Life District neutral study with Victus Advisors. That's an 8-week process. It started last week with some interviews with local stakeholders. We'll have an assessment in September. And with that information, I guess we're hoping that we can play a role in helping to move our Good Life District forward. Okay, I gave you a very big list of forecasted projects in varying stages of being cultivated. This just highlights a few of those for those that might be viewing online. Wanted to point out Census 2030. That's been on our radar primarily because the last census we lost our qualifying census tracts, which is essential for a lot of state and federal funding. And we don't believe we lost it because we don't have the need to have qualified census tracts. And so engagement in 2030, I think, is going to be really important for us to try to recapture that. We obviously also are looking at things that maybe not quite as far along from a cultivating standpoint. This is just a few of them. I wanted to point out the Career Ladder Program because that's something that you may not know what it is. It's basically a workforce program that helps immigrants who are highly skilled and credentialed back in their home country to navigate the paths that are necessary for them to do that type of work here. This is all in your packet, so I'm trying to go as fast as I can to get through it all, so bear with me. So let's get to our budget request. Well, the good news is Grand Island is growing. That food and beverage fund has grown since 2016 by $1 million. And I think any of us can look around town as you drive around and see the momentum and the growth and development that's happening in our community. It's very exciting, and we are proud to be part of it. We do understand the budget complexities that you're trying to work through. And so at this time, we are asking that we basically continue what we have had in the past, which was a 2+2 contract, 2 years, a review, and a renewal for 2 years, and at the $500,000 or more annual allocation. We've discussed this quite heavily in our executive committee, and we certainly believe that momentum going forward, to maintain that momentum, this is the level of funding that we really need to have. Let me also say, as you look over that forecast that I gave you, that there's going to be things that aren't even on that list yet, because one of the things that we are really good at is seizing opportunities. So as those things come up and we don't know about them, it is in our best interest to have some funding ready to seize those opportunities. This is just my closing slide. 5 great reasons Grow Grand Island is an effective partner. While you're looking over that slide, let me just point out a couple of things. First of all, the executive committee that we have takes the stewardship of all funding that we're working with very, very seriously. That goes for whether it's food and beverage tax money, private money that we've received, grant monies, whatever. We take it very, very seriously. We also believe that we have both momentum as an organization and a track record of collaboration and leveraging with not only our core partners, but other partners as well. That makes us a good partner for the city and a good investment for the city. I was digging around in my file I keep where I just kind of toss things aside so that I can go back and look at them later. And I found this document. It's 2023 City Council goal setting. Y'all went through that in June of 2023. And various categories in there, but as I was leafing it through, I think about, oh my gosh, what kinds of things could we be doing more together? Because we partner with the city, but we could probably be doing a heck of a lot more. I look through here, and let me just throw out some random things, and then I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to questions. 4-year college with dorms is on your list. Support and advance higher education opportunities in Grand Island. Emphasize and focus on a coordinated and comprehensive economic development with private and public partners. That's what we do. That's what we do. Flip over to quality of life. This one I love, collaborating with Mayor Still, CVB, and community partners for potential development of a Mormon Island Trail. That's on your list. And then I go over towards the back of the document, and you were asked for 3 things the city needs to focus on in the next 5 years. I just circled a few. Downtown pedestrian bridge. Support and advance higher education, welcoming community, city marketing, economic development, coordinated and comprehensive. And then, what is one thing the city must achieve in the next 5 years? And Creative District was listed on here. Now, if you look through that forecast that I have, you're gonna see some of this stuff on there. This is what you all said was important, and we agree. And so I just think the door is open for not only more of what we have been doing, but more of what we could do. So with that, we'll open it up for any questions if that's appropriate.
Yes, any questions? Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. I've had the opportunity for the last several years to sit as one of the city liaisons on this board, and it is a wonderful group of people. And I go back, and I've been around a long time, and I go back to when Mayor Vavicek we were talking about visioning and all those things that Mayor Vavicek wanted to see and Mayor Steele wants to see. This visioning has been happening over the last 9 years, and in large part to grow Grand Island. And I sit on this board with Mark Stelk and Patrick Brown, and I'm just amazed at the talent that voluntarily sits in here and talks about how do we make this happen, not just in my head, but for real. And so they make things happen that wouldn't have happened in the 9 years prior to that. So I'm supportive of their $500,000 request, and I'm always reminded of Marlon Ferguson when he first brought it up here. He said 500,000 or more, and the or more was just in case you had something that was really important that you wanted to be a part of. And that's what they are. They are nimble, they are looking at all kinds of things, and they're taking direction from us, and I get to hear it every month if I show up. But no, it's been a good process. The term, whether it's 2 + 2 or whatever the term is, it certainly is well worth that or more. Our commitment to grow Grand Island should continue because I think you can look at what's happening in Grand Island and you can see Grand Island grow, and in part to this group. So I think it's a good investment.
Mr. Nickerson?
I'm very glad to hear Chuck share his comments because I really would like to have known what he and Mark thought since they've been involved with this group. So thank you, Chuck, for that. I appreciate the presentation tonight, Tanya and the rest of you. I think it's okay to toot your own horn once in a while. In fact, probably every chance you get. And I'm glad that you had a chance to share the successes that you've had. When I look at Grow Grand Island, I see it as a behind-the-scene group that's driving many of these projects forward. And they're behind the scenes. They're not flashy, they're not out there broadcasting their name, they're just getting the job done, which, to Chuck's point, is just happening as these plans develop. I think the advantage of that is that you have so many additional eyes, ears, and ideas from many different entities within the community, and that gives us one of those key words that was used tonight, and that's leverage. We're able to pull all of that together, and you are looking for solutions. You are creating opportunities, and you're also solving potential problems that we have. So you're taking a very proactive approach and making things successful. Brad referenced a meeting that I was kind of deep diving into here probably a couple of months ago as far as this whole food and beverage tax thing. And where's the money going? We've talked again tonight, we've shared a couple times. We know the state fair is one of our obligations. We want to focus on ag and entertainment. We need to focus on recreational quality of life issues, which we've done a very good job of, and those never seem to stop. And community development projects to grow Grand Island. The problem is I see us becoming more into the recreational quality of life, and we're tending to neglect some of these others. So I think the thing that Grow Grand Island gives us is that leverage, that exposure, and momentum building in areas of the ag segment to help the entertainment part and the community development projects. Those are all important parts of the money that people said that we want. We're willing to pay more for our food and beverages, and out of those revenues, this is what we want. I personally don't want it to become a fund that covers only state fair and quality of life issues, which is park and rec. We're much bigger than that, and we owe it to our community to deliver on that. I concur with Chuck that I think it's a great program to continue to fund. and I think we'd be foolish not to. And we just need to look at that balance. And I know Pat did a good job of deep diving into the numbers for us as well, just to let us know, what funds are available for different things. And we still had money in there for some of these other projects. I think it's a great thing, and we need diversity in the use of those funds. We just cannot be a state fair, pay the bill there, and just have every park and rec project you can imagine come out of these funds. We're more than that. We owe it to the public.
Mr. Still.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too sit on the board, and I'm very impressed with the board that we have. They work as a team. There's no egos involved. We've even talked at our meetings about the difference between 10 years ago and today. We don't have pillars or egos getting in the way. We don't care who gets credit for the project. We're all working together, and the city gets the credit for the project. I would like to see our contract, when I read the meeting notes, I didn't like 2 and 2. I'd like to see a 4 or 5 year contract. And I'd also like to see it increase maybe $50,000 a year. And that $50,000 is an incentive to bring in other groups. And you just keep rolling that over. But I'm very impressed. I think this is a needed project or needed thing for the city. And I think this is one of the main reasons that Grow Grand Island and Grand Island are growing. And it's with positive growth. Everybody's working together. We don't have the internal bickering and fighting. And my organization wants this and my organization wants that. We don't have egos butting each other. We have everybody working together in the room. So I commend the people that work on our committee, and I commend the residents of Grand Island for supporting us. Thank you.
Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. Before I have a question for you, I have a question for Chuck and Mark, I guess. At these meetings, how much do you guys suggest, sway, represent the city? How much do you weigh in with strategy or suggestions from representing us?
I would say that I'm just listening. This is a listening opportunity for me. I don't vote. I'm not a voting member of the board, but I want to make sure that they are going after and implementing the things the city wants to have them go after. And so they are absolutely going after it, and they're doing a great job of doing all that. But my job during those meetings is to listen. And I might be engaging from time to time, but it helps to have a staff member. So Patrick Brown being on the board as well, he might get a question more directly about numbers. But quite frankly, we're sitting there making sure that the money is accounted for, which they do a great job of openness and about where all the money goes and what it's for. But I think our job is just to be there and make sure that they're going in the right direction. Because these partnerships that are created out here, they're a wonderful opportunity to parlay all the business knowledge that exists, and a lot of it exists in this room tonight, into a single meeting so that we're all kind of singularly focused. And that's what the wonderful part of this group is it takes it away from 10 members of a city council who have discussions, but it takes it even broader and a little more precise. How do we implement A or how do we implement B? They get into the tools that we might leave the staff to do here, but they're actually doing it there.
I agree with everything that Chuck says. I like to listen. I will give suggestions and a little history on things from people, but I'm just there to soak it all in and listen to what's going on. And everybody's very open with it. And we do have confidential information that we can't talk about outside our meetings, but I like that setup.
I guess it's very important to me to know, and I think for the community to know, that you aren't this rogue organization out there given $500,000 a year to do things that you feel are best. you've got representation from elected officials at the table, and that makes me feel better knowing that. I know everyone on your board. I respect everybody in that group, as you know, and I'm excited about the things that get done. It's probably some things that maybe you can move faster than we could. And there's always that question, is that the right way to go or not? But knowing that we've got a couple of our representatives there that are listening, active, and offering feedback, but as Chuck said, kind of just making sure you're not going, again, rogue from the city. So I appreciate what you do. I'm excited. I guess I would like to know what you think about what Mark said about the 4-year instead of 2+2. I don't even know what that's legal. I don't want to overstep bounds. But what would that allow you? It's interesting.
I'd be happy to speak to it. I can tell you that last year, with an extension of our contract of 1 year, made it very difficult for some of the conversations we were having, because you don't know what your funding looks like when you can look out and see kind of what you're dealing with. Now you have different conversations. So I think any of my executive committee members sitting in the audience would say we felt a little stifled. And so 2+2 is what we've done in the past. We're happy to continue with 2+2. But having said that, if there's an opportunity to do something that gives us a little more solid look ahead, we would be all in favor of that. So by all means, yes.
Be interesting. I thank you for that feedback on last year. I'd forgotten the 1 year was kind of a pain. So thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent vehicle to spend our occupation tax money on, and the funding, the way you can fund things, and it touches workforce development, and it touches every aspect of Grand Island life. And I think it's good, and I kind of agree with Mark if it can be done, to extend that so that you can look long range and, know where your budget is in 3 years and how you can spend it. But did a good job. Thank you.
Mr. Pollock.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the easiest way to state this is you don't hear a lot of people saying, I did this, she did. There's not any egos in this board that I know of. And when it first came out, there seemed to be a little tension. But as Marlon Ferguson said, if it works, it'll be the best thing since sliced bread. And it's working well. The last few years, it is more than paid for itself. Thank you.
Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to respond to the time of the contract, because the important part is when we were talking about when Brad was talking about the incentive programs, he's talking to people about 2028. Well, 2 years from now gets us to 2027, and so it's one of those, is they're dealing in some parts with 3 and 4 years down the road. And the same thing when we were talking about the Wayne State intern program. I mean, we were talking about housing and putting in housing and for having these interns come in. We're talking about getting talent into Grand Island, college graduate talent in here. These are great programs, but we're also talking about what goes on in 26, 27, 28. It's these programs that we're developing now and investing a lot of time and energy into really have a life cycle of their own. And it's much longer than 2+2. That's the thing, that when we're working on these things, our vision has to be out that far, and we can't tie their hands and not allow them to talk about the potential in 2028.
The internship program was 3 years cultivating, and then another year or two ahead of that, just planning for it. So, yeah.
Mr. Nickerson.
I know it's exciting to look at funding for long terms, and my only caveat would be that, yes, today the people we have in leadership has proven very successful. I think we all know that when certain leadership changes, sometimes organizations change as well. I could give you a very real life one, an organization that was destroyed in a matter of months. So we just need to be careful as we take a look at funding, not assuming that the excitement and the expertise that's here today to be looking out that we want to fund them for a solid 4 years because we don't know what changes in that leadership may take place. A lot of us are getting older. A lot of us are going to be hitting toward that retirement, and I don't know who comes up to take their place. So that's my only caveat, is let's think the 2 + 2 is almost 4. If you're doing a good job, you got the 4 years. But to just say, let's make it a blanket 4 years and go for it, changes in leadership change results, and sometimes that's not good results. That's my caveat.
Mr. O'Neill.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to explore the idea of longer terms as well. You know, a lot of what you're looking at probably has kind of long lead times for development of other projects. And I think overall the uncertainty probably makes it really difficult to tackle a lot of bigger things. And I like the terminology you're using with the leveraging, because it looks like a lot of the things you're doing are 65% of the funds are usually come from other sources. You know, that's pretty remarkable, I think, too. You know, I guess I would just encourage a little more thought, too, of, you know, considering the extension, too. Overall, it's just really difficult to plan. It seems like that's kind of a recurring challenge. You know, if you're doing internships and some of these things that we're trying to do are probably going like 4 years, you know, got to plan way ahead. So I think it's important to look at that. And, you know, if you see optional things, it's just more uncertainty, probably makes it tougher to plan. So that's about all I have, but thank you.
Jay Vavrachuk, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Jill, and thank you, Mayor Steele and Council. It's always a privilege to speak with you and make some remarks. And when I'm here, it's like one part of me goes back in time, and I could remark about different things. So before I elaborate on Grow Grand Island, I just want to acknowledge the leadership of Mayor Steele when he talked before about longstanding projects, much like the hike and bike trails. It's been there for 20-some years and just never have gotten around to it. And if we can look back, we've got multiple studies on aquatics, always about the need for an indoor aquatic facility, and that's sitting right there. So, and then when the remark about ballot language, I'll just point out, if you go back to 2004, and Mr. Nickerson's probably the only one here that was there in 2006 for the sales tax election, specific language indicated funding for the Heartland Public Shooting Park of $125,000, also a similar match for the Grand Generation Center, and it's hard for that to ever continue going forward, much like some of the issues that we're talking about today. We just never got around to it. But I think the integrity of a ballot language is so important, and when you make a promise, you deliver a promise. So with that, Grow Grand Island has been tremendous. And as Mr. Hawsey remarked about, it came as a result of actually 2 visioning projects that were going on in 2015. Grand Generation or Grand Visioning occurred in 2005, so we thought, hey, 10 years later, we ought to have a visioning effort. So as a result of that, and there was a lot of conversations about how would we ask citizens to support that tax fund and for what purpose. And ultimately, what's come out has been tremendous because I've never seen more progress occur in our community in parks and recreation than ever before in our history of Grand Island. Because in 2011, Steve Postian, the Parks and Recreation Director, his capital improvement budget was $110,000. I mean, what can you do with that? So when you look at Grow Grand Island, one of the measurements I think I look back in life is if a person wasn't here, would he or she be missed? Is a business, if it is no longer exists, would it be missed? If an organization is no longer there, would it be missed? And I think if Grow Grand Island wasn't there, it would be missed. So going forward, when you talk about contracting with a non-government entity, and evidently it's worked successfully in the past 9 years, as indicated by all the things that I can see, I would just ask this, because the food and beverage tax has been so instrumental in so many ways in Grand Island, I think we need to protect it. And be mindful of the fact that I think one of the measures of the food and beverage tax was it could always be rescinded. Voters could, for whatever reason, act to remove it. And so I think we just need to be cognizant of the fact that make sure we protect it. with all the integrity that you have protected that food and beverage occupation tax, which is largely driven with sales taxes outside of the city limits of Grand Island. Also, when I talk about being here and thinking about what I was when and what I know now, I'm also cognizant of protecting what maybe could occur. So I'm going to just suggest, and I know what's before you is a 2-year contract using $500,000, a portion of the food and beverage as leveraged by the Grow Grand Island. But I would also indicate that the contract, and I visited with Laura, the city administrator, on this, and there's been no issues that I can see about the effectiveness of decision-making. But I also worry about when you talk about more than 2 years or maybe 4 or 5. And also I can think back, there were times where city council did not necessarily agree wholeheartedly with every city administrator's recommendation. And I would hate to go ahead and have us look back in time and risk indifference with the council and a working relationship with the city administrator. I also, when I look at that position, it's so important, and we've had so many people over the last 9 years. I think this is the 4th city administrator we've had. So looking ahead, would a new city administrator be compatible with the vision and history of Grand Island? Probably, but who knows? So why would a city administrator want to potentially jeopardize her working relationship with the council by being the decision maker on Grow Grand Island projects? So I'm going with this is the fact that, and I don't know if the folks at Grow Grand Island would care or not, but they have great accountability of every resource that's been leveraged there. When you talk about awareness and engagement and for people to be aware of what it can do that you're approving, that would be approved, then why wouldn't it make sense to have a contract also be contingent upon the actions of a city council? That's no disrespect to any leadership today, but going forward, just think, is it worth a safeguard to have that measure in the contract where that expertise can be used by the city administrator, the expertise, the recommendation, everything that Grow Grand Island has, which have been proven to be great leadership. We also have a public setting where it can be heard and you have the elected responsibility to implement. I don't know what we would have to lose, and I don't know why it wouldn't be good for the citizenry to know exactly all the great things this organization is doing, who are literally volunteering their time. So when I look at the contract that was before you, I'm assuming that the leadership will be mindful of that, but also funding, that's your call. Years, that's your call. And quite honestly, if you don't agree with trying to have a step of city council approval versus the plans as it's confirmed by the city administrator, that's fine too. I would just point it out because the food and beverage resources has been so enormous and so vital. And also this last thought, Grow Grand Island, basically, in my estimation, is a glimpse of what Grand Island could be outside of maybe the focus that you have with other things right in front of you. So with that, I appreciate your attention very much. Thank you, Mayor Steele.
Chris Kulak, do you want to speak?
Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for having me this evening. I will be brief. I'm pleased to see that it seems like there's some overwhelming support for Grow Grand Island. That's important. I want to toot some horns and sound an alarm at the same time, since tooting horns was something that was mentioned earlier. Without Grow Grand Island, we would be in a very bad spot, specifically to my campus with the livestock shows that GILCA, the Grand Island Livestock Complex Authority, hosts, we put on our Fauner Park campus. And the direct result of the funding that Grow Grand Island gets is underpinned with our livestock shows that we have. If the bid is $100,000 for, let's say, a cattle show, and that cattle show operation or manager says, we can afford $75,000, but we can't afford $100,000, then Brad Mellema will come in. He's part of the Gilka board, and he has Grow Grand Island money to fund and subsidize that show. So the $25,000 that the show couldn't come up with, Grow Grand Island does. Boom, we have a show. And last year there were 2 economic impact studies done on, one was on the Hereford show, National Hereford show, and the other was on an international Australian cattle dog show. And both of them each brought in $1.5 million in tax revenue to the city. There were some remarks about quality of life. That's swell. It's nice to have a terrific quality of life, but the direct result from those shows was displayed in the economic impact studies. The sounding of the alarm is Gilka, as it now is a dying entity. Fauner Park cannot continue to stay in Gilka. We've voiced that amongst the Gilka people and others we see at Grow Grand Island. I don't want to speak on behalf of Jamie Parr, but she has done the same thing. It doesn't work for her. It doesn't work for Fauner. And I can tell you this right now, we're out and we're discussing how we will handle these shows that are left, that are already scheduled, if we don't have any part of them. That's the negative, the bad consequence. I can tell you this right now. Fauner Park has come up with a business plan that we're very excited about. We want to share it with Mary Burley and others about how we want to aggressively start marketing more livestock shows to take place on our campus, in our buildings that we pay for. But without the funding from Grow Grand Island, we cannot do it. Without any additional subsidies, we can't. Every state that borders Nebraska gets some sort of legislative line item subsidy or a tax for their livestock and cattle shows, and we get Grow Grand Island to subsidize a show to just help them get across the line. That's it. We cannot compete with the shows that happen in Denver or South Dakota or Iowa State Fair or in Louisville or the National Western Houston Livestock Show, you name it. We cannot, and we will just crumble and go to the wayside without this subsidy to be competitive. And the funding, not only from Grow Grand Island and elsewhere, is paramount for this to stay on for our city. So that's it. I'm welcome to answer any questions or quickly sit down. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Nickerson?
Nope, this is for Tanya. This is for Tanya. This is one of my questions I had written down, and I overlooked it, but it's one I think while we're in a public setting, it would be nice to know. You mentioned a Good Life District study with a group called, is it Invictus? I didn't go to any of the meetings or anything that was going on, but I'm just curious, what is the purpose of the study, and what do you hope to find from that?
It's a fresh feasibility and economic impact study, and we call it a neutral study because they're not going to come in under the direction specifically of, say, a developer or of, say, a municipality. So they are just going to uncover what they're going to uncover, and we'll have that in front of us. And that, to me, would be a great tool for you all as you're working with what you're anticipating, according to the paper anyway, a new application from Woodsonia. So it should equip you with what you're going to need for that.
I still don't understand what they're going to tell you. What are they trying to find?
We don't know what they'll find.
I mean, what are they even looking for?
You know, and actually it might be too complex to try and address at the mic, but I did bring the contract. If you're wanting to look at it, I'd be happy to.
Well, those of you that were there, maybe you can explain it better, because if you got a neutral whatever, I don't know what this means. I have no idea what.
They're going to look at our Good Life District project, and they're going to consider everything around us. They're going to consider our economic climate, what it is today, what it could be, and they're going to present us with data that's going to, we hope, move us forward. So
data based on what?
Data
what the Good Life
based
District could become based on what the blueprint shows?
That they'll be, they're data analysts. So probably similar, when you looked at Woodsonia's Good Life District application that went to the state, and they had an economic impact study inside it, it's probably going to be similar to that. Really.
All Greek to me, I just don't really understand what they're trying to
I
get.
know. Some of the reasons why it's kind of important to have a refresh of the study is that, first of all, the Good Life District application that Woodsonia submitted goes back a couple of years. There's been 2 legislative cycles since then, this last one having a pretty heavy impact on how that Good Life District is going to go forward. Not just ours, but all 5 of them that are approved. And so you all can make decisions based on the data that you have in front of you, and that's certainly, and I mean, you probably should. This is going to give you yet another view of what that looks like using current economic information and looking at the feasibility of, well, let's just take the sports complex itself. Originally was this size. Now it's going to be this size and have these elements to it. Okay, how does that change any of what we looked at a couple of years ago to now? Kearney, busy doing some things. What does that mean to us? There's just angles, perhaps, that would equip any of us engaged in the Good Life District initiative and wanting to see it go forward will help solidify in our minds that what we're doing is what we think we're doing.
So my question still is, it sounds like part of what you're telling me is it's still going to be based on some of the desires of that Good Life District being a sports complex. And
The sports
I don't know if
complex is our transformative project, so
Right.
it is a key piece to what the neutral study will be looking at. Probably less some of the stuff that's going to be more on that western side where the housing and stuff is, probably less of that, more about the transformational project itself. The sports complex and all those amenities that are around it, it's focused on that.
Okay, that makes
Did
it
that make
a
sense?
little more
I'm
clear.
not very good at explaining it.
I
I'm
thought they were
sorry.
just starting from ground zero and just throwing it up to see what sticks. But it sounds like they're basing it on some assumptions of requirements that we would like to see, and that makes more sense to me. Okay,
Yeah, we did not give them the parameters to study. We just basically said we need to know about our project and its feasibility and economic impact as it's described here.
okay, all righty, thank you.
A lot of Mr. O'Neill.
Sorry, I didn't mean to have my mic back on.
A lot of complimentary things have been said about Grow Grand Island, and I agree with them all. A couple things that come to mind for me, and Mr. Kadulak mentioned it, are the livestock shows and how we wouldn't have those livestock shows except for the help of Grow Grand Island. Given my background, I make it a point to go to the livestock shows. And in addition to seeing the livestock, I always spend time in the parking lot. And you see people coming to Grand Island from places like Rhode Island, Maryland, Virginia, Oregon, California, Texas. And it staggers you to think what a huge draw to Grand Island those livestock shows are. And even if you have no interest in livestock, I'd encourage people, just go look at the license plates and see and think about this. People in the far-flung areas of the United States sit around and talk about taking livestock to Grand Island, Nebraska. What a draw we are. I recently welcomed, at Brad Mellama's request, the Dairy Goat Show. I welcomed them on Sunday morning at 7:45. Oddly, Brad, you weren't there. But I welcomed them nonetheless. And the story was the same. People brought their dairy goats from all across America. That would not happen but for the efforts of Grow Grand Island. One other personal note. When we started looking at acquiring Camp Augustine to combine it with Mormon Island and make something much larger and better than is there now, Grow Grand Island was with me on that journey every step of the way. All the visits we made, all the parks we visited to see how state parks work, I could always count on a contingent of Grow Grand Island people to accompany me, to help me, to give me advice. And that is remarkable when you think these people are volunteers. And the only thing they receive in return is thank you. So tonight I say most sincerely, thank you for helping Grand Island being a better city, being a greater city, a city with a brighter future. Thank you. Next on our agenda, 5B, fiscal year 26 contract and LB 840 budget request from Grand Island Area Economic Development Corporation. Mrs. Burley.
Oh. Mary Burley, representing the Grand Island Area Economic Development Corporation, presenting our semi-annual review for our organization, as well as an LB 840 semi-annual review. Since inception, the City of Grand Island has invested $8.7 million into LB 840 incentives. This is job creation, job training, and job infrastructure, rather. This is a total of 1,100 new jobs. In the last 10 years, though, the City of Grand Island has invested $4.7 million into LB 840 job creation, job incentives, job training, and infrastructure, resulting in 243 new jobs into the City of Grand Island. I am going to review the active projects that we still have beginning in GIX number 4 in 2023. But in 2025, we did 4 applications for LB 840 that were approved by you all. This is arguably the most applications we've ever done in a year and the most diverse. So please keep that in mind as we go forward. GIX Logistics was a 2023 application, but amended in April of 2025 to transfer from job creation to job training. We transferred that in order to save and to keep GIX Logistics in our downtown market. As the economy changed, we too needed to change and hold on to one of our greatest and best employers in the city. To date, since that April date of amendment, 11 staff have participated in advanced training at GIX Logistics. Build Grand Island is the other LB 840 application that's still active. The City of Grand Island matched our third Rural Workforce Housing Fund grant application with $314,000, matching against a $1.2 million cash grant. We were recently awarded an additional $1.5 million in 2025. This brings our total for Build Grand Island funds to $6.7 million. Build Grand Island is a 0% construction loan to developers to develop single-family detached owner-occupied homes as well as single-family rental homes. With award number 3 that would leverage LB 840, we have helped construct 4315 Don Street, 4321 Don Street, 4325 Don Street, 607 Kenneth Street, 538 Buffalo Grass, 1842 Apple Street, 1834 Apple Street, 1841 Apple Street, 1845 Apple Street, and 1 apartment for Wayne State College interns at the former OfficeNet building. The other 4 apartments at the former OfficeNet building were taken out of award number 2 for that. So these funds continue to recycle. These funds will come back in August of 2026 to then be recycled for additional residential development here in Grand Island. Without taking that 4th award of Build Grand Island funds into account, we've developed 24 single-family owner-occupied homes, 22 single-family rental homes, and are assisting in the development and infrastructure of 22 single-family lots. If you look on that map, we've been able to touch every pocket of development in the city of Grand Island for residential. In 2025, along with our partners at Legacy 34 and Happy Development, we've also been able to apply, and receive $1.5 million in Nebraska Affordable Trust Fund dollars. These have helped Happy Development and Legacy 34 build a 44-unit apartment complex and 3 5-plex rental units. These homes will remain available to individuals and families earning 120% of area median income or below for 10 years. This is a program that Grand Island has never been able to access before 2025. Next on the list is Vermeer High Plains. This is a new-to-market Grand Island business, and while infrastructure is not the shiniest star to support in Grand Island, the City Council did approve $525,000 for 600 linear feet of sanitary sewer, water, and public roadway out at Platte Valley Industrial Park East for Vermeer there. In October 15th of 2024, the road, sanitary sewer, and water were completed. You'll see Mayor Steele along with Kevin Klein and myself on that road. And then May 1, 2025, we had a groundbreaking ceremony. In June, Vermeer High Plains' building permit was approved, and in July, the footings have been poured. So this project, because they were able to access LB 840, they did not apply for tax increment financing. The same is going to be true across the street. Earlier this month, you all approved the Industrial Foundation 4th subdivision at Platte Valley Industrial Park East, directly across the street from Vermeer High Plains. We have a new project coming into town on that Lot 1 that as soon as we receive the address, we will facilitate that purchase agreement. That is another business that will not apply for LB 840 while they are eligible, and they will not apply for tax increment financing, again, while they are eligible. What we did with this infrastructure fund is we made the easy button for businesses to relocate and expand in Grand Island. By investing in infrastructure on the street for one project, we're able to see that ripple effect and that return on investment for others. The YWCA is another just very diverse because of expanded uses of LB 840 in the last election. We were able to earmark $500,000 for an expanded child care and early education facility. Today, the YWCA has 32 employees and serves 130 children through child care and after-school program. If and when they expand, they will hire 52 full-time employees, and they will serve 300 children through their child care and after-school program. This is roughly a $6 million facility and improvement. The City of Grand Island invested $500,000 into this facility, yet the YWCA has leveraged that $500,000. They've raised 42% of their goal, and they've unlocked other funding partners with a grant from the Sherwood Foundation for $500,000, the Chief Foundation for $150,000, and a $1.2 million grant from Hornady Manufacturing. So with just your investment with the City of Grand Island, you are helping the YWCA unlock way more funding opportunities for them. Next is My Town. This is a influencer, Corey Hepla, was in Grand Island last week filming. We filmed with DJ Ihusen, President CEO of Chief Industries, Tyrone Ray at the farm. We did a podcast with Dr. Sydney Armstrong Grint, and then filmed with Jocelyn Reyna. Corey Hepla and his team were here for 3 days filming the biggest, brightest, and shiniest stars in Grand Island, and that will be broadcasted in the fall of 2025 winter of 2025 for all of the nation to see. We're looking forward to hosting community watch parties and really throwing this influencer content out to the rest of the world as to why they should work, live, and play in Grand Island. And the next one is a video, which I'm going to try to mute because we don't necessarily think we got it muted. Okay, perfect, thank you. Last but not least is the Here Grand Island concert series that we were just here on June 24th. We have hosted 4 Friday night concerts thus far, and every Friday between 6 p.m. and midnight, we've welcomed an average of 3,100 people into the Muir Plaza. This 3,100 people are only adults over the age of 18 that have their location services on. So we know that there are far more participants and families coming to enjoy the Here Grand Island concert series than what that 3,100 on average reflects. That is a direct representation to your all's commitment to this community and to the livelihood of growing. It's fun to watch. In addition to managing the city's LB 840 program, EDC has been really busy in highlighting our community activities and our gems. We've been supporting entrepreneurs, help reaching their goals, and then recruiting a growing workforce to our community. So with that, and as we plan for our 2026 operation year, we are requesting $20,000 less than what we requested in 2025 for operating dollars. This is at the instruction of city administration and then at our growing a greater partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, where we've been able to find a few efficiencies in our operations. Just to highlight a few of those is rent at the ENC. We are officed out of 123 North Locust Street. We pay $8 a square foot on the second floor of that building. That is wildly low compared to market rate rent in the downtown. We are reducing this by $224 per month for the space that the chamber occupies at $8 a square foot. As we go down, we have telecommunications, insurance, janitorial space, office, equipment and maintenance. Again, we're identifying some efficiencies. That's 1/2 of a copier rental and 1/2 of a new computer. Software and supplies, it's $4,500. The website, we will partner with the Chamber of Commerce to have one customer service management system. That customer service management system will power one website for economic development operations, business growth, as well as Chamber of Commerce activities. Our portion of that website and customer service management system is $6,000 annually. Salaries is $160,000. This is approximately 53% of all EDC staff salaries. And then employment taxes, again, that $14,000, that's a reduction from previous years. That reflects the 53% of LB 840 funded salaries on that. Accounting and audit, Darcy Ray serves as our CPA, so we have that out of the office. And then our audit, rather, that reflects 1/5 of our audit costs, as suggested by city administration. Then we have EDC regional memberships and site selectors. This is going to be our site selectors that we work with and partner that identify global and national companies that are looking to expand, and we get first dibs at them to be able to show Grand Island and what we have to offer. Workforce development initiatives, rather. This includes our manufacturing day and our community college, our UNL college tours, where we bring students that are interested in some type of career after their post-secondary education. We like to show them the different aspects and the different opportunities that Grand Island has to offer. Placer AI, this is a data software that we share with Grow Grand Island as well as the city administration to be able to do some economic impact studies. And then we have conferences, economic development annual meeting speaker that talks about the power of public and private partnerships to our business communities, general promotion and marketing, for a total of, again, $335,000, which is $20,000 less than the 2025 requested budget. So with that, I would open up for any questions or comments.
Jay Vavicek, would you like to speak?
Presentation, appreciate the leadership of the EDC over the years, and some of us can once again remember the EDC is probably not asking enough for $335,000 for administration. And heck, the city was investing probably 30 years ago, $375,000 a year, and it was coming out of a supplemental funding request along with Red Cross and Hooked on Fishing and a number of different things. And ultimately, it gave way to the first LB 840 that was approved in 2005, which is earmarked $750,000, of which a portion could be used for job creation. And as I look at it, its mission's the same, but it's changed, I think, with the times and construction. And in the old days, you used to think, well, hey, if you had a war chest, you could be able to go out and entice another employer to come to town. And it was successful in luring Standard Iron to come to town. It offset any concerns of Case New Holland going away. So it's merely been useful, but when I look at it now, I think it kind of sets the table for economic development and housing and ways that maybe doesn't get the glory of reaping a new big employer to town. So when I think about if we were investing roughly if the city was investing $350,000 30 years ago, just think that money doesn't go nearly as far as it does today. So I think before you is a well-thought-out plan. I could go ahead and scrutinize a couple things on it, but that's not for me to get into. But I just think it's indeed a portion that, once again, relative to my earlier comments, every decision that comes before you for economic development under LB 840, including this administration request, as well as any grants, comes with city council approval. And I think that sets a good message for all of Grand Island, but also a message that the EDC board knows it's investing taxpayer resources and does so wisely. Thank you, Mayor Steele. Thank you, Jill.
Chris Kulak, would you like to speak? No. Okay.
And just in response to Mr. Vavracek, I mean, we're dealing with city money, so we go through the budget carefully for the EDC to make sure that there's verification of what city money will be used for. I don't want the public to believe we just give people a pot of money on the basis that they might want more. We have to have verification of how the money is being spent. Mr. Nickerson?
Yeah, thank you, Mary, again for a good presentation, and it's always good, again, to summarize what's going on. It's a great time to take a look and see where the tax dollars are going. You bring up a couple of things I thought were quite interesting, and I always like the way you phrase certain things because you're just kind of gifted at that. But you talked about when we invest in infrastructure, in certain ways we've already hit the easy button. I like that because majority of TIF projects that come to us are for infrastructure because it's so darn expensive to build roads and sewer and all that stuff. So I thought that was an interesting angle as you take a look at now we've got two businesses that are going to benefit from that infrastructure and probably some others. And don't have to come to us looking for additional funds, although they could technically. Because that cost is out of the way, they can probably obviously they can make their businesses move forward. The other part I liked that you talked about investing in certain projects like the Y unlocks the opportunity for other funding opportunities for them. That helps once they see a city anchoring a project like that. I think when it's time for grants, people have confidence that this project looks like a good project. So these are the benefits that we see from the city taking dollars and investing in projects like the Y, which is going to be an outstanding project, and taking the school that my kids went to and turning it into something totally different than I would have never expected it to become. I think also to the mayor's point, LB 840 or TIF dollars is still tax dollars. And we've got to be accountable for those. And it's a different pot, but it's for different uses. And I also appreciate as you're talking about the efficiencies of the EDC and Chamber as you've come together and how that's, I think, probably working pretty darn well so far. It's just good things to see. Now, there's one thing about the workforce housing. I'm calling it workforce housing out at the Hoppy Orchard project. Now, you said something about this being available for 10 years? Targets a certain income group. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
That would be the Nebraska Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and that is a state program. So certain amount of units within those Nebraska Affordable Trust Funds, those residents will need to be income qualified for 10 years. They will need to hit a threshold of 120% area median income. So their gross and net income, they need to be at or under that 120% AMI. And it's a sliding scale depending on how big their family is.
So I'm assuming this is rent?
Correct.
Their
Those will be
rent is
renter-
based on their income, so it's technically a lower rent, more than likely from market value.
Correct.
Okay, and is that by a couple of $100, or is it just vary? You said it just varies.
It'll vary depending on the developer. I don't have those numbers with
Oh, and
me
that's
at what
okay.
that rent looks like.
But
for
it's
each.
it's a few hundred. I think I've heard
It's
this on another
significant.
project too that might be coming before us. Well, good things. Northeast Grand Island is kind of is where Mike and I hang our hats, and we always like to see housing development out there. I drove by the other day and looking at the 5-plexes and the 7-plex and all kinds of good stuff going there. So again, it's always good to see where our dollars are going and to see the results of that. And I appreciate that tonight. Thank you.
Mr. O'Neill.
Just a couple of questions for you, Mary. So I just want to talk real quick about the Placer AI. Just to elaborate a little bit on it. So on the data it's accessing, is it basically taking public data that's kind of scraping out there, or is there also internal data that you guys have that you're feeding? Is it kind of a mixture of both?
It's predominantly public data. So it's going to be based on if activity has their location services. And then we can identify travel patterns attached to those pinging of cell phones. We can also identify some economic impact of dollars spent within the district, dollars spent without of the district, and again, those travel patterns. Where are our customers coming and where are they going afterwards? So it helps us, as well as tourism, identify some of those efficiencies and or how can we grab more dollars based on those travel patterns.
Sounds like a lot of good analytics. And then you said it was shared with you and Brad, or are there any other entities that it's shared with? Or
The Placer AI subscription is shared between Economic Development Corporation, Grow Grand Island, and the City of Grand Island.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Next on our agenda is 5C, Fiscal Year 2026 Library Budget Proposal. Mrs. Swan.
Hi, Mayor and Council and Administration. Thanks for letting me present tonight. All right, well, here I am again and asking for more FTE. So I just wanted to go over plans for this next year, what we would like to do. For our personnel services, we predict an increase of 4.44%. So what we'd really like to do is add 2 FTEs to our library staff. This would cost about $82,827, wages only, and add 80 hours for 5 part-time library assistants. So the library with those 5 staff would be able to add some hours, and also it helps with our Nebraska Library Commission Gold Accreditation, and we can stay up to date with what other libraries are doing with their services and their communities. So adding 2 FTE library staff could help us to adjust our hours. Right now, we look at adding 4 additional hours from 56 to 60, which means we'd be able to add 4 hours on Saturdays, or we could add 2 hours on Saturdays and add 2 hours on Thursday night, because we are pretty busy the 2 nights that we're open till 8 o'clock. So we could work that out. But with having the 5 additional part-time library assistants, we'd be able to focus more on adding hours, and that means adding more services and being able to have programs and staff to cover what needs to be covered. So the addition of 2 FTE would affect the social fabric of our community, our quality of life, and we talk a lot about quality of life. And I know when people move to Grand Island, a lot of them say the first place we go to is the library to see what the library is all about. And we do have a beautiful library that's very community focused, that people of all walks of life, all ages can come to, and they really love it. People that come to the library really love it, and they value it. So, you want to consider who our library serves. We serve families and patrons that want to visit the library on Saturdays. A lot of people work evening shifts, or they can't make it to the library during the week. So adding more time on Saturdays is just a real important thing. And we're open Sundays already from 1 to 5. So we do see a lot of traffic come in, a lot of families coming in, and they can come in, check out items, spend quality time together, and use the library. Also, we have a lot of literacy needs with schools that like to visit, and they like to come in and do tours and, get them signed up with the library card, get them excited about reading. Right now, there's a study that's out that shows that library scores are down, and if you can't read, you can't do a lot of things in school. You can't do mathematics. You can't, when you get older, you can't get a job. So getting kids from the schools to the library is very important. Also, the library serves a lot of underserved population. We do a lot of programs right now with people with disabilities. We did a couple programs this summer. We had over 100 people attend. And we're also doing programs with Makerspace with people with disabilities that they really appreciate, and they love to come in and take part and create something in our Makerspace and get to take it home with them. So also, we support our aging population. I'm thinking about myself. I know I value reading even more now than ever. And we have a lot of book clubs. We do a lot of partnerships with the Hall County Historical Society. And these programs are very well attended by the community, and people really enjoy them. We do a lot of partnerships with the English language learners of all ages. We do programs with the Literacy Council, Adult Basic Ed. We offer some community conversation classes on Sundays. So also, people on fixed incomes who don't have internet, computers, technology, streaming might not be able to have these things that we enjoy every day. So using the library is a great resource for them to come in, to save them money. Also, coming into the library, they feel like they're part of the city, part of the library, part of, things that are going on. They can come in and take part in an art exhibit and, bring their babies and toddlers to literacy programs. So we're not just a regular library. We offer a lot of different things that people don't even know about. They come to the library and they say, oh, we didn't know you had sewing machines, and we didn't know that you have 3D printers, and there's a lot of great STEAM activities and toys for kids and families that they might not be able to afford. So coming to the library, they get to see what's out there and take part in things. So our staffing needs, the library is busier. There's more checkouts, programs, foot traffic in the library. If we hire 5 part-time library assistants, we'd be able to probably add some additional bilingual staff. We have 3 bilingual staff right now, so it's always good to have more staff. We could also help cover our Makerspace programming. Our numbers have doubled since last year. Requests from outside organizations for outreach. We do a lot of outreach. We love to go out into the community and get people excited about using the library and promote what we have. So this is a survey that the Nebraska Library Commission does every year, and we have to take part in it and enter all of our information. So it just kind of shows what a value the library is. And the thing that kind of blows me away is our number of programs. So we've done about 400 programs between in the library and outreach, and that affects over 15,000 people. So that's a huge number of people taking part in programs at the library. Not only do we offer traditional items like books and online databases, but we have meeting rooms for people to use that are very valuable to them, to be able, like the health department might come in and do a program on diabetes, or they might come in and do a program for teens. So, it's just another great resource that we have there at the library. And our program attendance has gone up. This is for the last 4 years. It shows how the numbers have gone up steadily every year, and it's something that, you know, we're pretty proud of, to keep getting kids back into the library to use those resources. And our off-site program attendance is really good. We do homebound delivery service for people that can't come to the library. Maybe they've had surgery, or they don't have transportation. We deliver books out to them with volunteers. So our off-site program attendance is something that we work really hard at. It's really hard sometimes to struggle to get enough staff to go out, and we can take volunteers with us, but they can't do a lot of this stuff, like look at people's private information. So a lot of stuff staff have to do. But we do, we utilize our volunteers daily. So if you look here, these numbers go back to 2017. It shows how numbers have increased for circulation has, you know, it's steadily been climbing back up. Our hours that are open, we've been trying to add hours the past couple of years. Our digital circulation is huge. People really love their online Hoopla and Libby, which you guys have seen before over the past year, as we've struggled to do contracts with our databases to make sure we keep them in place so people can get those resources that they love. And you can see our Makerspace user numbers. That was just halfway through June. So there are increases in everything there. Our library staffing, presently we have 21 FTE. And you can see that after COVID, we're at 18, and we did add 3 more FTE. And what we'd like to do is add the 2 more proposed FTE to get us back up to 23. And if you look back over the years, we've had as many as 25 FTE. And so I think it would just be great to do more with 2 more FTE. And so our operating expenses, we're looking at an increase of 10%, which is $56,000. Costs have risen a lot due to inflation for goods, such as books. Like a lot of books, the pricing, I can give you an example, like for a large print book, they've gone up from about $38 to $42 a book, which is a lot of money. But so those are the kinds of things that we have to deal with: the increases for books, databases, postage, technology. So that's a bigger increase. I looked back 2 years and it was 6%. So 10%, I guess, with the inflation is probably about a good estimation, working with help from the finance department on that. So our capital projects, you know, every year I bring up this kiosk thing. We haven't let it go. We're gonna get there. And right now, with all the growth in Grand Island, it's really exciting to be talking to people and getting out there and seeing new structures that are coming up and like perfect places to put a kiosk. And we do want to take advantage of adding a kiosk, and we're also going to be working with Libby from our grant writer. She's a grant writer, to help us to do a grant to get maybe an even bigger kiosk. So this would be for 1 kiosk, and I don't know how much prices will go up, but kiosk would be something, let's say if we put it at Target, which would be a great spot, or at a sports complex, people that are there visiting that location could grab a couple books, check them out. You can put from anywhere from about 230 to, some of them are huge, like kind of like a bank that sit outside where you can do fancy stuff with them, like get on the Wi-Fi and everything. So lots of opportunities. Since we don't have a bookmobile, this is just one way to reach people out in the community. So there's a lot of kiosks across the nation, and lots of different types, but people that I talk to at other libraries in other states are really loving their kiosks and how they can help to get materials to people. So that's my presentation in a nutshell. So if you have any questions at all.
Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. I have the privilege, after Mitch, of being on the library board. I have learned a lot. Just, you know, you learn a lot from somebody who's been in a position for 25 years, as we learned last week. Things I didn't know, and like my phone making noise when it's on mute. Things I didn't know that you do so many programs for those underserved populations. A lot of times when I think underserved, I have one thing in my mind, and then you blow it by saying the folks with disabilities, different demographics of people that come in for different programs, so many things that I know a lot of the excitement that we build it for a certain type of person in mind, and it's this typical person. And we need to do those things. But I'm so proud of the library, from what I've learned, of the things you do for the people we forget about sometimes. The smiles on the faces every time I walk in there from some of those crowds. Quality of life is something that you check the box on. Every meeting, we don't always share out here, but every meeting we look at those numbers, and it seems like every month, the year over year, those numbers are going up. Maybe month over month in the summer, looks a little lower than the previous month, or maybe it's a little higher, but year over year, we're getting closer and closer. And I truly believe that adding those 4 hours could get us much closer to those pre-COVID numbers. The digital numbers are growing. I'm a guy that likes to look at books and then get the digital. So I don't want people to think, well, if you're going all digital, why do you need the library? Why do you need to have the hours? I got to look and see what's available. So I appreciate those extra hours. That'll get me there more. So I just appreciate everything you guys do. I wanted to jump in before Mitch did, because I know he would like to talk probably about the library, but I just want him to know that I am trying to follow in your footsteps and support the library as much as possible. Thank you for all you do.
Mr. Nickerson.
It's good to hear that Jack has caught the bug, because it's a good bug to catch. I really enjoyed my time with the library, as you've heard. What I really enjoyed most was the board, because that's our connection. That's the one connection we have. And that board was the most engaged board that I think I've ever been involved with. And again, to the rest of us, we usually sit there, but I can't keep quiet, so I'm going to have some input, I'm sure, in any of those meetings. But an engaged board that had a mission to make the library the very best it could be. And they challenge themselves every month. I've never seen this in my life. Every month, they tried to hold themselves accountable. They said, what did you do this month to promote the library? They asked each other that question. Who does that? Who does that? Who asks their board members, what have you done to improve and promote the library? Some of them say, I didn't get much done this month, and the others say, well, this is what I did. That's the kind of engagement that impressed me. One of the things that I heard from an interview from Mark Stelk last week, which really impressed me as well, talking about your 25 years, the celebration we had, and those of you that saw his interview, he touched on something about the library, and he said, this is not going to be exactly what Mark said, but I think this is the gist of it. It's not just about books anymore. The library has evolved into so many other things. It's even an event center for kids. And I thought, holy cow, what a better way of describing, you're an event center. That's exactly what you are. I mean, you've got so many activities going on, an event center for the kids. That's powerful. And to see the smiles and the excitement on those kids' faces, and they've dragged in grandma and grandpa and mom and dad and brother and sister, it's an exciting time, and that's what we want. We want people to be excited about learning. We want them to be excited about books and about the other things. The makerspace is very important to many people. I wish I could do more in it. You know for a fact that I make 2 puzzles every year, if not more, at Christmas time. And it's a great, cheap gift. You just take a digital photo, they print it out, you cut it into a jigsaw puzzle, and it's all done for you. It's amazing, and it's very inexpensive. Last year, I supported the 5 part-times. You weren't here really to defend yourself last year this time. I think you weren't just able, I can't remember what was going on, but you weren't able to be here. I did not advocate as well as I should have last year. I would continue to advocate for the 5 additional part-time, and I think the key reason here that I advocate for this is that they're part-time. Part-time people receive no benefits, and they know that going in. And Patrick, just a quick question for you. Do we have kind of a number of what benefits cost? Is it 42%, 35%? I don't know what those numbers are anymore.
So when we have vacancies, we usually go high side, and it's usually around 40 to 50,000. And that is our high price to health insurance, everything.
For a full-time employee?
Yes, for full-time.
So 40 to 50,000 on top of their salary?
Yes.
Holy cow. So there's a savings. I mean, this is the advantage of part-time help. They know they're part-time. The city's not invested into all the other things that go into the benefits. And God forbid that we have to start reducing people. Those are the first positions that go, and they need to know that. But also the flip side of that is folks that are coming in part-time might be interested in getting their foot in the door for a full-time job should it open up. And then others are just going to be happy to work part-time. And we benefit from that, they benefit from that, and the public benefits from that. I've found that the library has become my meeting place lately. In the last 2 weeks, people said, can we meet and talk, and where could we go? I said, let's go to the library. And we go out into the main little area there, and we have our little meeting. It's a great place to go, and then when you're done, you can go in and you can check the art on the wall, you can do whatever you want to do. The library is an important part of our community, and you have a lot to be proud of as you've been part of that for 25 years, and it has evolved, and it will continue to evolve, and we need to keep up with the 21st century. I would continue to advocate. I would hope that Jack would advocate. I don't know who else would. Those of us that have been involved would take a look, and of course, we still got to look at all of the numbers. But I think the part-time is not an unreasonable request. And the other thing that I asked last year when I was trying to promote this was, how do you do on budget overall? Do you come in favorable on your budget? And the information that Patrick had given me last year was, yes, you'd been favorable on your budget. So we're looking at the whole big picture, costs whatever the numbers were up there, but more than likely you will be favorable on your budget by that much, and if not, you got it pretty darn close. I think it's a good thing. I think the library needs the additional hours. I think the public benefits, and you've just done a very good job, you and the staff there. I really enjoy it.
Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor. Celine, the part that's missing for me is when you were asked for the FTE is, how's your volunteer program? You used to have a very robust volunteer program with literally more than 100. I don't know how many you have. Where's that sitting today? Because a lot of this ebb and flow was handled with volunteers and not by employees. So where are we at with the volunteer program?
We have about 200 volunteers right now. And so like for our summer reading enrichment, we have volunteers that come in that read with kids. We have volunteers that sit at our welcome desk. Some of our library board members take part in that. So we've got different volunteers for different things, but we have a good core group of volunteers that help us with outreach. We have a church that's coming in to help pull weeds and clean furniture. So, we have people that are invested in Grand Island. We're always looking for more if anybody's out there. But I think people that come in and volunteer find that they get more than what they give, because it's such a great place to volunteer at, to show, to see people coming in, and the fact that we make difference in people's lives. I think it means a lot to people. So we count on our volunteers. We have a volunteer coordinator. We're supported by the Library Foundation for some of our programs and our craft supplies and services. And we also have a great library board, as Jack and Mitch and Maggie have all been on our boards, and they can see what we do.
So the whole library, can you pull up the slide that has the patron visits, total circulation, that slide? Yeah, one back.
That one?
Nope, that.
Yep.
Keep going. That one.
Yep.
So it looks like COVID really affected, if I just look at the very first column of patron visits.
Yep.
You used to have 240-some thousand patron visits, and now last year it was 106.
Yep.
So the patron visits numbers are really down. So I think COVID changed a lot of how you do business.
It did. It really did, because we have more people taking part in the library by using our online services. People that couldn't make it out found that a great way to enjoy books in a safe environment was to listen to audiobooks or read ebooks online. So you can see that our circulation has been climbing almost back to where it was before COVID, 250,618. So our circulation's up, so people are using our resources. There are just not as many people coming into the library.
Right, so if a person is checking out a digital book, I suppose from home, right, from anywhere,
Right, from anywhere.
how much labor does it take to do that on your staff?
For us, it's less labor because these are resources that are online. So we spend more time helping people reset their accounts, get their PIN number, teaching them how to use their devices like their Kindles or their laptops, phones, how to get set up, because we have a library app. And so there's a lot of technology where we need our staff to work with people one-on-one. And, also we deal with language barriers, and there's a lot of customer service involved at the library. And our staff are amazing at making connections with people and helping people of all ages to have success. So we're still busy, just in different ways.
Because I know it's been changing. I know you've asked for a kiosk tonight, but we have asked over the years. I've heard at one time we were talking about putting the police department in just as a place to stop and do a report or something. We talked about having a coffee shop in the lobby or at what. And now, where do you think this kiosk is going to go? Do you have a location?
I have a couple of ideas for locations where I've reached out to people. And so our community substation does get used by the police, and also other different nonprofits have asked to do tables outside it, or to use it to meet one-on-one with people when they need a place to visit. So that's always in the works, to continue to have more people use that. But so I think as we go on, I think we're going to find that. Can you say your question one more time?
Well, we're just looking at the use of the lobby and,
Right.
your use of the lobby. At one point, we talked about having this substation, police substation there, and at one time we talked about having a coffee shop there. And now I don't know where the kiosk is. That going to go in the lobby?
It wouldn't go in our lobby. It would be out
go
in the
somewhere.
community. Like if we had a new sports complex, a lot of libraries put their kiosks there, or in grocery stores, or places where people of all ages can take advantage of it. So that's a good question. But there's different types of kiosks too. There's some that are almost like a branch bank where it's outside and people can pull up, and under an awning they can go and put their card, scan it, and check out their items and return items. So there's some pretty fancy kiosks out there. But for a start, I think a smaller kiosk would be good. But like I said, if I can work with Libby, I think we could really do some magic with getting a grant for a bigger kiosk for Grand Island.
How much labor would be involved in if you added a kiosk anywhere? Because
Well-
you've got to reload it, you've got to read.
It would mean stopping out probably at least once a week to pull items and put more items in. And I'm happy to do that on my way home. I'm very passionate about getting materials to people. And our staff that we have that are off desk, if they have an hour of off desk time, we could send them out there and have them restock. And, we don't have an outreach vehicle. That's going to be something that I really think the library is going to need in the next couple of years, probably. Maybe before I retire, or maybe after I retire. I think a town the size of Grand Island, a growing town, really needs to have some type of shuttle bus or outreach van to go out to people that can't make it into the library, or maybe not even, a lot of people don't have transportation. So I think there's a lot of really good opportunities for us to start reaching people in different ways. But for the kiosk, I think that would be it's cheaper than building a branch library, and it's a great way to get materials out to people. So I think people would really appreciate that.
I think a lot of the times with capital, I like to see what's the operating cost. If we approve a kiosk, we're spending,
Make sure we
another
have the budget.
2,000 or whatever it is. Just to know that, because I know that in our finance discussions with Patrick and the rest of the team, we have capital funding available, but it's the recurring funding that
Right.
we don't have. And that's where we need to be careful, because what we don't want to do, and I know the library's been hit with this before, we don't want to hire like 3 people 2 years ago, 2 more people this year, and all of a sudden, oh, we got to lay off 5 next year, next year. That, we don't want to have the yo-yo effect
No.
on the operating side, and that's why I'm always curious as to what are they going to be doing? So you talked about if we hire 5 people for 16 hours a week, I don't know how you can do that, but I'm assuming that you can find somebody who wants to work 16 hours a week.
Well, we have amazing part-timers. We have John Howard, he's a retired teacher from Central Catholic. We've got a retired state patrol officer, which is always good to have around. And we have so many staff part-timers that bring their skills and when we open up jobs, we have a lot of applicants, and there's an amazing amount of people that need a second job, maybe to make ends meet, or there's people that are maybe retired that have gifts that they can bring in. So it's a great, part-timers are a great thing to have for flexibility, for doing outreach, for covering our desks so staff can do makerspace programs, the higher level staff that have technical skills. So yeah, it would be an amazing thing to have 5 part-timers back at the library.
I mean, I understand, I just don't know how easy it is to find those people that can do that, but we hear stories that it's a challenge to find talent anywhere.
We have no problem finding talent, I can tell you. I just looked through like 150 applications for a job that was opened up, so.
Thank you, Celine.
Yep, people love the library. They want to work there. It's their dream job. Any other questions?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
5D, fiscal year 2026 Community Development Budget Proposal. Mr. Navity.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, the Community Development Department has 3 divisions, and so I'm going to present those to you separately because, well, the planning division, regional planning, is split with the county and with the CRA. So there are multiple funding sources involved with that one. The planning department, we are looking at personnel services increases overall by about 1%, and we are requesting no FTEs this year. I had some discussions about FTEs and decided this was not the year to do that. Next year, I may be coming forward and saying, now's the time. Operating expenses, we are increasing about 9.1%. That sounds like a tremendous amount, but it's really only about $2,300. And a lot of that, we've got postage increases and public notice increases and things that we can't control that we have to do. And I just want to make sure that we've got enough money in the budget to be able to accommodate those things. Capital projects, Chuck, I put that picture in for you, the large format printer. For a number of years, I had that in my budget, and we have not replaced it. We're not going to at this point, or if we do, it's no longer a capital purchase because they've come down in price, and the amount that is considered capital has gone up. So it would be within our operating expense to be able to replace the large format printer. The building services, that's the building inspection department. We are looking at personnel services increases of 8.3%. This includes no increase in FTEs. Thank you for the increases last year. We did hire a mechanical inspector that started in June of this year, and we are already seeing an increase in mechanical permits because somebody is out there doing the inspections. And doing it, somebody that knows the mechanical code, and that's really what their job is. And the contractors have responded. He's also been out and visited all of them and said, you know you need to get permits for these things, which is a good thing. So we're seeing increases in mechanical permits. Operating expenses are decreasing by about 6.8%, $5,000. This is because we have implemented the Civic Serve permitting software, and we are getting rid of specific software that the building department used to track permits because we've gone to an enterprise-wide software. Capital equipment, we do have one new vehicle scheduled that is to replace the 2008 Ford Focus. The community development, CDBG, personnel services increases at 2.7%. That's just normal wage increases there, no increase in FTEs. Operating expenses increase of 0%, so staying same as before. And then community development does not have any capital projects, although our CDBG funds certainly will be funding some capital projects for Public Works this next upcoming year. If you've got any questions on this part of my presentation before I move to the next one.
I don't see any, Mr. Navity.
Well, then I'm going to jump to the other one, and if you think of something, I'm still standing here, so I can go back to it. Community Redevelopment Authority. The Community Redevelopment Authority does have a tax levy that could be up to 2.6 cents. We're at about somewhere at 1.76, I think, right now. The CRA is not requesting any additional funding this year. We are asking for the same amount, $791,000 that was approved last year. We're asking for that same amount this year. I am anticipating that that will drop the CRA's levy, as properties will likely have increased in value across the city. The CRA budget, we are looking at a total revenue of almost $11 million. About 8.8 of that is tax increment financing. So those are projects that have been done that are paying taxes that then we pay the bondholders with those taxes. The operating expenses, we are keeping the same at $134,300. $100,000 of that is for contract services, specifically the portions that the CRA pays of my salary, my assistant's salary, and our planner. So there's about $100,000 of that that is coming off of the regional planning budget and off of, quite frankly, half that the county pays of the regional planning budget. Program, we're looking at about 1.3 million. I will go through that specifically, what that entails. And then TIF bond payments, we have 8.8 million scheduled and budgeted. That does include $800,000 that is for other TIF payments. Just in case I didn't do my math right or the assessor raises something up significantly, and so we have budget authority to make the payments that we would be required to make. Husker Harvest Days and Conestoga Mall, we have $400,000 budgeted for that, $200,000 toward each of those. We have 3 more payments on Husker Harvest Days that will be paid off in November of 2027, so the 28 fiscal year. And we have 17 more payments for Conestoga Mall. We'll make our 3rd payment this year. Budget highlights, we're looking at $500,000 budgeted for facade improvement. We did put $450,000 in last year and had $440-some thousand requested, so we'll carry over about $8,000. Most of that will have been expended over the course of this year. I expect to pay out most of those grants that were made last fall by our September meeting. Conestoga Marketplace, that's the $200,000 payment that we're on year 3 of 20. Husker Harvest Days, a $200,000 payment. That is from food and beverage tax funds that the city sends to the CRA. We are on year 8 of 10. Other projects, we're putting in $200,000. This has been done for a number of things. Last year, we did pay for the new Christmas decorations that were in Railside. They requested a grant. Those are the kinds of things that other projects pays for. Several years ago, we paid for the facade and refacing the chamber building with other projects. Fire and life safety. This program we restarted 2 years ago with $200,000 a year, with $100,000 coming from the CRA's levy and $100,000 from the city general fund, or from whichever fund it's from the city. We have to date committed $235,000 of that $400,000 that has been allocated for the last 2 years. With that said, we are only requesting $17,500 from CRA and $17,500 from the city for the upcoming year to make $200,000 available, instead of building up that fund and not knowing whether we've got committed projects for it. This is one where you talked about the Wesleyan internship program and the OfficeNet building. Part of what we did, we granted $100,000 for updating those apartments in the OfficeNet building. And that's part of the $100,000, part of the $235,000 that we have allocated over the last year and a half. Then land purchase, we put in $150,000. Does anybody know where this picture is? This was a piece of property that the CRA purchased more than 20 years ago. Bill's Trading Post was there. Right in front of, Chuck is smiling, he remembers it. Bill's Trading Post was there, right in front of the old railroad station. When they were redoing that, the CRA purchased that, and it is now a very nice open green space across from, so those are the kinds of things that the CRA can do with land purchases. We have also purchased property, 408 East 2nd, there was a firehouse that we bought that did not have insurance. We tore it down, and a number of years later, a developer purchased it and has a threeplex there. So we do that to clean up these properties. The Desert Rose, people watching at home, if you remember where the Desert Rose was on South Locust and 34, we've got a little over 3 acres that we would love to have you redevelop. I'll make my plug for that. I do it at the CRA meeting every month. but they're not televised. Overall, we have committed $200,000 to the Elks building. Their request was $400,000. We said we cannot do that in a single year. We have to do it per year. We could do $100,000. I'm anticipating that they will approve another $100,000 this upcoming year. The Elks building should be done this fall. We should make those payments immediately upon completion. Once the budget year starts, we should be able to make that $300,000 payment, and then the next year finish that up. We've done that before with large projects where we made it over several years. Fire and life safety, Tower 217, $55,000 has been committed to that. The Woolworth Building Life Safety, $55,000 was committed, and the Woolworth Building facade, $68,000. So a few buildings in the downtown that are benefiting from that. Projects paid or expected to be paid since the last budget approval, the 4th Street BID land streetscape plan, the OfficeNet Fire Life Safety Grant, 122 West 3rd Street facade, that's the Grounds to Go building, Hetty Building Life Safety Grant. People are supposed to move into those apartments August 15th, is what I've been told. That project has been going on for many, many years. This finishes it up. The Ramada, 3221 Ramada Road, we did a facade grant for $100,000 there. They are working on that at this point. And then 703 West 3rd, $100,000. That's Babcock Real Estate. We anticipate that that will be paid off or paid before the end of this year as well. TIF projects with final payments, whoops. Baker Development up on 18th Street. We had our final payment. Mainstay Suites, we will have our final payment here before the end of the year. And then we've got 4 that I'm anticipating in 2026. Token, one of Todd Inc.'s projects on North Ruby. Auto 1, Habitat's project at 8th and Superior, and then Weinrich Development. Weinrich Development is one of those that was actually approved about 7 years ago. So that one is paying off substantially faster than was anticipated. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chad, for the presentation. So to clarify on the property tax asking for the CRA, you are going to put in the same dollar revenue, and then when Patrick gets the assessed value, which is certainly higher if it's any relation to my property tax.
Mine too.
And then the levy will drop.
The levy will drop. Exactly the same amount that we asked for last year.
Right.
You did give us an increase of about 3% last year. Thank you. That is appreciated, but we want to balance that. And this year, the CRA did not request even a 3% or modest increase.
Okay, so that did go noticed. So just so you know, I noticed that. Thank
Yes.
you very much. For the 200,000 and other projects.
Yes.
You know, you mentioned that one of them was the chamber facade that we did in a prior year. And again, that building is now for sale, as far as I know. You know, and so this is one of those is, will the council get to see where that 200,000 other projects funding is approved for? Or does that all get done through the CRA once it goes past us?
It all gets done through the CRA. They have the authority to fund that. They have the authority to make those decisions based on the community redevelopment law and the things that they have ability to do, which include things like the Christmas lights, things that they can only do things that are in areas that have been declared blighted and substandard. They cannot do anything in other areas.
Yeah, I mean, typically I use 3 legs of the stool as my example. You know, I know it has to be legal and compliant with all the lawyer stuff. But there's also a community need part that I, as a council member, I always think that I think we are close to the community, and we get calls all the time, you know, and that's that community need part, because I don't know if one project would meet the community need phase. I know it meets the legal stuff and it meets all the financial, I need this to do it, but if the community doesn't need it, I'm not so sure it's a good investment, because this is real money that we're taxing everybody for, and we're going to give it to somebody. This isn't like TIF, where they're borrowing their own money over time, where they pay it off with their own taxes. This is real money going out, and everybody's paying somebody, so it's the Robin Hood effect. You know, and so that's why I'm always curious. Now, you don't have any projects today that are interested in that 200 grand?
Nothing that I can speak to immediately and publicly. We looked at a project this last year that would have been along 4th Street that may still come back. Not the lighting project. That lighting project has been wonderful if you haven't been out over to 4th Street, but the ability to create some public space in that area.
So if I suggested we drop it to 100,000, would that have a negative impact on your operations for 26?
At this point, it really wouldn't, but it may impact our ability to do some of those things like I just mentioned.
Okay. Thank you, Chad.
Mr. Nickerson.
Thank you, Chad, again for a good presentation. I would just, to alleviate any concerns that Chuck might have, and I always tell people my two favorite committees are CRA and the library. And CRA inches her out just by a little bit. I will assure you that projects that come before that group are scrutinized with due diligence, and I've listened to them debate certain things, and I have all the confidence in the world with that group, just as we've talked about other groups tonight with Grow Grand Island and some of those leaders who again are volunteers, that are scrutinizing every one of these projects and questioning them, and if they don't fit, they don't approve them. In some cases, they have a little subcommittee, which I've seen happen maybe only once or twice since I've been involved, but they will go and they will go and check some things out personally and then bring a recommendation back to the committee as a whole. I feel very comfortable with that group and appreciate them, and again, appreciate the fact that we're holding the asking as what it was last year, and that's always a good thing, and the levy should go down, and I think that, again, is a positive thing when you take a look at graphs and see that.
Thank you, Mr. Navity.
Thank you.
Item 5F, fiscal year 2026 Police Department Budget Proposal. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'll keep this a little under my 3-hour estimated time. I plan on hitting the high points, kind of explaining where we are, where we're going. But November of 2022, I came here to Grand Island for the first time. Several of you were in the interviews that were conducted, and I heard the marching orders loud and clear as far as staffing levels, recruitment, retention of personnel, leadership vision, leadership development. And right now, I appreciate you hiring me, and thank you very much. But we're 30 months into about a 60-month department vision on re-envisioning the Grand Island Police Department, rebuilding it, and being ready for all the growth that is coming in and will be coming in to Grand Island over the next few years. One of those things that we're looking at doing is continuing to grow incrementally, to add some positions, to try to make sure that we're staying flat organizationally as much as possible, and that we're using our resources to the maximum for as much efficiency and effectiveness as possible. So we have evaluated over the last 30 months a lot of different processes. We've made incremental changes. We've examined ripple effects, and then we've made more changes. So we haven't just come in and willy-nilly changed a lot of things. And we have hired about 30 police officers over the last 30 months. And that's a lot of new people coming in. Most of them are coming in from this area. Many of them are first generation here, bilingual, female officers as well. So we've got a really good group that has come in over the last 30 months, and I'm very proud of them. And we want to continue that momentum over the next 30 months as we look at how we're building out every fiscal year. So instead of getting a lot of stuff one year or trying to get a lot of stuff and asking for a lot. We're trying to build it in incrementally every year over about a 5-year period. So what we're looking at requesting this next fiscal year is an additional FTE for a police officer. That police officer is vitally needed in our fleet area. Not only is the fleet sergeant over fleet, that fleet sergeant position is over our community service officers, our code officers, and potentially animal control as well if we go in that direction. So I'll explain a little bit more about that position as we go, but that officer position is vitally needed to assist the sergeant and the other 7 code enforcement officers that sergeant supervises. We're looking at also reclassifying one position that has developed since 2019 and taken on a lot more tasks. The office manager position in 2019 was essentially a direct report to 7 clerks. With the loss of a police captain, our organization kind of dumped a few things into that position, that office manager position. And so we're looking at reclassifying that into a little bit higher category. And it also is becoming a direct report to me. So instead of increasing hierarchy, we're pulling that position out. That position is going to supervise about 12 people with 4 direct reports. Also, it has a lot of technical investment and administration over a lot of our software, Spillman, payroll, a lot of other areas that in 2019, the office manager position didn't necessarily have that depth of experience or that breadth of supervision. And so we're looking at reclassifying that. Instead of having 2 direct reports to the police chief, there'll be 3 direct reports. And so we'll keep a flat structure. That position will also be over essentially all the IBEW non-sworn positions, including property and evidence, victims assistance, and the clerical staff. We're also looking at requesting that we overhire 3 officers. There's a lot of problems with smoothing out our hiring because it takes about 12 months from the point where we're looking at hiring an officer, getting them through training, getting them on their own. And so when one position becomes vacant, essentially it's not filled by a police officer for about 12 months, unless we're lucky and we get a lateral hire or something like that. So essentially it takes 12 months to fill a position. So even if we are at full staffing, which is great because we will be essentially at full staffing with the August Academy, but that means we have 4 people at the Academy in training and we have 4 positions within the department that aren't filled. And so allowing a +3 overhire allows us to smooth that out. We have hiring savings or salary savings in order to do that every year because we budget for a top-tier employee and we have salary savings that would support a +3 overhire. The anticipated start date really for most of these, and I made this before I did the reclassification position in there. The reclassification position, I would request we do that October 1. The rest of them, the FTE police officer position and the +3 overhire would start essentially with a January academy, and that would take us to 92 full-time police officers with a +3 overhire.
Mr. Brown. Please proceed.
To go a little deeper into what some of these positions would, mainly the code enforcement officer, or the officer that would support the sergeant in fleet, they would help with the day-to-day operations of the fleet. Right now, that impact is carried by our code enforcement officers. So if we have vehicles that need to be run to the shop and back and do different maintenance and things like that, our code enforcement officers fill the gap. And that's not, again, that's passing on burdens to the code enforcement officers where they could be doing and staying in their lane. But if we had an officer over there, that officer could do the day-to-day responsibilities. Also, it's extremely important, I've learned this from my first department, that we have a police officer position involved in the procurement, the yearly procurement of police vehicles so that they're outfitted properly, the officers know what needs to go where. And again, that officer would provide safety and help in investigations with our code enforcement officers and potentially with animal control. Some of our operating expenses increases right now are still a little vague. We're working on a contract with the Humane Society. That's still up in the air. We don't have specific numbers for that yet. I'll talk a little bit more about the need for us to finish off the radio acquisitions here in just a few minutes, but that's one of our operating expense increases, which is mainly the software side of that. And then we've increased our law enforcement center revolving maintenance fund, and it has been matched by the county as well. Some of the things I want to assure you that we are doing to mitigate, more requests for funding. One of them is we have been getting some great support and donations of training ammo from Hornady Manufacturing. That's been terrific and consistent. That's really helped us smooth out our training budget and allowed us to purchase other things or do other things with that money as well in training. All of our canines have been privately funded, and that's been terrific. So we have 2 patrol canines. We have Cello and Mando, which have been funded through the community. We also have Boone, who you see there with my daughter, during one of the SRO youth programs. Boone's been, as I've mentioned before, been a terrific asset as a therapy dog. And Boone was purchased through donations from Hornady as well. So all of our canines have been privately funded, and they've been terrific. The new canines that we have in patrol usually have a life expectancy, a service expectancy of 7 or 8 years. And so we're at the beginning of that. So we've got several more years with the dogs that we have in patrol. And we always ask first, are there any grant options available? So we do look at grant options for anything that we're looking at trying to fund or mitigate costs on. Some of the capital projects that we're working on, as you know, we're collaborating with Public Works. This is a terrific collaboration with them. I think it's just a win-win. We've talked about it. I won't belabor it, but it gives us a footprint police-wise on the west side of town. It also allows us to be a little bit more effective with how our some of our capital is protected from the weather, our vehicles, for example, and how they respond to crisis situations in the community. And so if they're undercover, more than likely they'll be ready to go and roll out. So we'll have a higher percentage and a quicker response to crisis events. And it's terrific to have a footprint on the west side of town for our patrol officers so that they're not coming to the police station, the LEC, to write reports. They actually have another place that they can go on the west side of town to write reports. And so if a call comes out, they may be closer on the west side of town than on the east side of town. We're also looking at adding office space in the existing impound building. We talked about that for our community service officers. The fleet sergeant would be out there and the fleet officer would be out there. That allows them to closely monitor the auctions, the release of vehicles, the impoundment of vehicles. It's just a much more effective use for that group of people to be officed out there. And it does free up some office space in the law enforcement center, which we really need. We're also looking at increasing the security and safety at the impound. We're looking at completing the fencing around the impound and also grading it so that it properly drains. So those are also adding some cameras and lighting out at the impound as well. For the most part, this will really help us service the community a lot better with training. Right now, the law enforcement center, our community room, is used all the time. It's booked, sometimes double booked. It was just a few days ago for us. And this allows us, the substation on the west side of town allows us to have a dedicated training space, not only for our people, but also for the sheriff's department. We can host training events. We can have other agencies come. And as far as that goes, as far as being an epicenter for training for other agencies, that helps us better coordinate with other law enforcement entities, and it helps us network a lot better with the people that are in those agencies. So some of our capital equipment ask, I'll go into detail on, and this is, again, is what I talked about as far as being incremental. We're not asking for everything in 1 year. We're looking at multiple years in trading this over. And these are definitely things that need to happen going forward because we have been not purchasing these in previous years. And so last year, with this year's fiscal budget, we purchased about half of the pistols that the department needs for replacement. They're not producing some of these pistols that we used to have from Glock. Along with the new pistols coming in, they're getting their red optic sight and a flashlight attachment to that. And this is one of those, the ballistic shields that we're adding to vehicles and the vehicle remarketing and the new vehicles that we have coming in. For police officers that are looking for departments, this is part of the recruitment and retention that I talked about at the beginning. For police officers that are looking at departments to become a part of, they want to make sure that they're getting into a police department and a community that supports the police department with equipment that's reliable and that's good equipment. And so this is actually part of a recruiting tool for people that are looking to become police officers and possibly stay police officers here in the community. So we're looking at adding, requesting 9 new patrol units. A lot of what we did last year with this fiscal budget and this next fiscal year is to ask for 1 or 2 extra vehicles because what we're trying to do is smooth the mileage out on the fleet and not have a short-term optics on what this looks like in purchasing vehicles. We could purchase 6 or 7 vehicles a year, but we're going to run literally those vehicles into the ground every year. I have one supervisor's vehicle on patrol that gets the oil changed on it every pay period. And so we're running that vehicle into the ground. That's not the smartest use of that equipment, in my opinion. You buy a couple more vehicles, you invest in those vehicles, and you smooth out the mileage. We're going to extend the life of the fleet, and ultimately we're going to reduce the cost of future vehicle asks. And so this is something that's very important that we're trying to manage on a mileage and an aging issue. For example, we have a 2014 Explorer that's been a K-9 vehicle all 10 years, and it's in good shape. And so it's one of our backup K-9 vehicles now. But that vehicle was used by one officer the whole life of its time here. And so it doesn't have a lot of mileage on it, and it's in good condition. So what we're trying to do is not run these vehicles into the ground every year that we get them and then have to just force them to another area, code enforcement or some other area outside patrol. We're trying to smooth the miles out. The other thing that allows us to do is keep the vehicles under warranty. So we've saved with this year, so far this year, this calendar year, about $34,000 in vehicle maintenance because we were able, when the vehicle broke, it was under 100,000 miles, and we were able to get it into the shop to get repaired under warranty. One of the vehicles was 13 miles away from hitting 100,000 miles, but they still repaired the transmission, and that was a costly repair if it wasn't under warranty. So we're trying to keep these vehicles under warranty as long as possible in order to allow for warranty repairs, replacements, and things like that, and maintenance.
I'm going to go to Mr. O'Neill for a question.
Yeah, just a quick question on the vehicles. So with the pricing of that, do you guys go through like Sourcewell or any other type of like state fixed government pricing for new vehicles?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
Sorry. On the vehicles, do you guys have like fixed prices for government vehicles for like Sourcewell or something like that?
We do have a state bid contract that we purchase the vehicles off of. The way it's gotten now is that you can buy the vehicle for around $50,000, $55,000, and all the equipment that we're putting in it, the cameras, the radios, everything that goes in it is almost doubles the price of the vehicle.
Actually, but at least it's pretty fixed price for the.
It is a fixed price,
Okay,
yes.
gotcha.
It's a state contract.
Thank you.
So that's where our capital equipment and vehicle request is. That's kind of the why and the reason behind we have that request. We're trying to properly manage the resources that we're getting in, asking for a little more than we absolutely need, but in the long run, it's going to provide benefits a couple of years down the road in terms of vehicles that just literally don't have the wheels run off of them. Another piece that has really increased our budget is our radio replacement. This is one of those that's baked in. We have, over the last 2.5 years, added radios, these new radios, to our budget. So matter of fact, the second week that I was here as the police chief, I had to go and ask the mayor for $550,000 and you all for new radios. So we got 75 of these handheld radios in. We've replaced a few, or added a few more since then. The problem is that we haven't added everything that we need. And so we do need some more radios in the older cars. And we have been adding new radios to the new cars that we've been getting in. But we do need some of the new radios in the older vehicles that we have. We do need some additional handheld radios. And there is now a software subscriber fee that we have to plug in. We didn't do that initially with the first ask of radios. We only added a few radios onto the software package so that we could talk to other law enforcement agencies. We now need to add the whole software package onto this ask. So this price actually would have been a little bit over $1 million if we hadn't baked in and gotten a $300,000 grant. And so that $300,000 grant helps mitigate the ask for the radios. But this is something that is needed because we are all going to the new radio system by the end of the year or the beginning of next year. It is a good way to go, getting into this radio system. I've used it and acquired it in a couple of my last agencies. They're reliable, they're good, and they do increase community safety. And when you talk about dealing with anything in schools or in buildings or around the area, it allows for an incident command structure to happen around a single communication. And so we can talk to the Sheriff's Department, we can talk to NSP, we can talk to other law enforcement agencies and have them patched into us when there is a crisis event involving multiple agencies. The other thing that we're looking at doing is increasing the technology so that we don't increase the FTEs. So one of the things we do look at, in a couple different ways we look at it, is do we have technology that can replace or mitigate our FTE ask? If we do, if we have cameras or we have trailers that have cameras or we have license plate reader cameras, that really does cause us to have a second set of eyes or multiple sets of eyes out in the community. So that may mitigate future FTE asks because we have that technology. We're asking for that technology to be in place. And one thing I always want to make sure that I'm talking about what we're doing in the future, what our expectation is and where we're going as far as the vision, so that over the next year, 2 years or whatever, when I interact with you all or the community, I get feedback so I can modify that vision and what that looks like in accordance with what community and the council expectations are. So I mentioned that over the last 30 months, we've added 30 police officers, and we've come a long way. We still are getting on top of the curve, in my opinion, as far as the organizational structure, the leadership, the succession planning, the motivation and the alignment with the community, where we're going as a police department and what we're doing. Number one job is to impact crime, and we're reducing crime. Second thing is our impact on accidents, traffic, quality of life, and we're working on that. So that's where we're going. But I also wanted to make sure that I explained a couple of these things that, how it means that we're not asking for more FTEs, but we're asking for the minimum number to affect these issues. One of them is the dedicated traffic unit. I've talked about that several times. That would involve about 4 officers, and instead of adding 8 or 16 officers to patrol, we would add 4 officers to a dedicated traffic unit. That unit would be involved in education of traffic, school zones, and enforcement as well. And what you've seen over this past year with our patrol function, increasing their traffic stops, we really had a focus on that. Our traffic stops so far this year are up 86%. The accident rate is down 11%. I believe with a dedicated traffic unit, we can take that to the next level. That's the minimum amount of FTEs we're talking about. Instead of adding in mass FTEs to patrol, we're not going to add FTEs to patrol. We're going to add FTEs to a specific task to deal with that issue, and that is accident rates, education, and enforcement. Also, another issue that will affect our overall crime rate is the violent crime rate, and dealing with their prolific offenders and having a proactive unit that will deal in concert with our county attorney, with our prosecutors, with our probation and parole, to make sure that we're dealing with these prolific offenders is going to help overall reduce our crime rate. One thing I did want to talk about real quick was adding a professional standards lieutenant in the next couple of years. That's the last supervisory piece of the puzzle. That lieutenant is vital for internal compliance, internal investigations, policy, committee oversight. There's a ton of stuff that lieutenant position is needed for, personnel as well. And so I'll be talking about that in the next couple of years as the final piece of our organizational structure. We're looking at possibly, with the addition of the wet substation, a building maintenance PTE or an FTE. Also, this is the biggest quality bang for the buck is a crime analyst. So a crime analyst is quality versus quantity. So that's another piece where you employ a crime analyst to figure out where crime's happening, where crime may happen, and you can devote your resources to that as opposed to adding more FTEs for police officers and just throwing them out into the community where you think crime might happen. So that would help direct a lot of our data-driven, evidence-based policing strategies. Probably addition of, we're going to have to analyze how many tickets and reports that we have coming in as we grow as a department. So a records clerk may be a possibility over the next 3 years. The last two, victims assistance and especially the co-responders, are right now partially grant funded. That grant funding has been decreasing year on year, and those are two very important community things that we do. Victims assistance is worth their weight in gold, how they handle victims of crime. Our co-responder responds to officers in the field who are dealing with people suffering a mental health crisis, and then they deal with it better than the police officers ultimately would. And they have case management follow-up later on. So those are things that, if the grant funding eventually goes away, that I'll be asking that we pick up eventually funding on, because they are a great service to the community, and they do a better job at what they do than the police officers would, or just adding police officers to that function. That's my presentation. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I've talked to you many times about, the last few years, the community response to your department has been phenomenal. The things you've done, wise decisions that you've made. Talking to a couple of the fellows behind you, they
Brought
seem
back up.
Yeah, I noticed. They seem to like the things you're doing as well, and that buy-in means a lot from respected members of your team. I was going to ask you about a 5-year plan on some of the things, so I'd like that you put in a 3-year plan just to give us a sense of what you might be asking for on the personnel. But on the capital side, do you have a 5-year outlook? When we start talking about, it sounds like you might, because you talk about trying to add less at a time, or more now, so you can add less at a time to create a lifespan for some of these things. But I was surprised at some of the things that I don't think about until I get one of these presentations. Each officer's got to have equipment. And when we think about somebody in an office, well, they have to have a computer, they have to have a chair, they have to have a desk. You need all of that, but you also need a car. You need some gear, you need a gun, you need ammo, those types of things. Do you have a projection on just the growth and what you're going to need to maintain to the lifespan replacement plans for all these things?
Yes, we do, to answer that quickly. But what I found out when I got here, we were doing some technology changes, some things that were in our control, out of our control. We did an analysis of where we were and where we needed to go over the next 5 years, and incrementally how we needed to get there. The radios this year is one of those things that just comes up that we don't really have a lot of control over, that we do need. That's a big ticket item. We were baking that into the 5-year plan, buying radios. So we do. What we have discovered right now with regard to vehicles, some weapon systems, some things such as ballistic shields, several other things that the department has had, there hasn't been a replacement plan necessarily for a lot of those items. And so this fiscal year, this coming fiscal year, are the big years to have those capital improvements to where we can outfit the department. Because sometimes when you're talking about outfitting, 91 people, you can do that incrementally, and sometimes you need to do that in more chunks. And so we had to factor in what that looked like. Could we do some stuff over a multi-year period? Could we do some stuff over a 2-year period? For example, the pistols was a 2-year period. We outfitted patrol this year for the most part with the new pistols, outfitting everybody else next year with that. We have the same weapon system there. Some of the other long rifles we had, for example, were over 20 years old. And these things needed to be replaced. And we're ideally looking at multi-years. But once we get to about year 3, which is this next year, once we get past this next year, for the most part, what we're looking at is adding incrementally in small amounts and planning, for example, 10 radios, not 75 radios. So we're looking at adding small amounts of this to capital every year through 5 years. And so when we get to year 4, we're going to reevaluate, see what we need in year 5, but then we're going to come up with another 5-year plan. That next 5-year plan is going to be much lighter on capital. It should be much lighter on personnel as well, because we'll be on top of the curve. We'll be ready to deal with and stay apace with the growth of Grand Island, with what's coming into Grand Island, casino, Target. My wife's happy for the Chick-fil-A. All of those different things coming into Grand Island. In a couple years, we'll be ready to stay pace with what the expectations of the community are and what y'all's expectations are as well. But right now, we're doing some heavy lifting this fiscal year and next fiscal year on some of these capital items.
Thank you for that. The FTE side of things, having a +3. So if you're at full capacity, this gives you 3 more that, in case somebody leaves? Or is there always somebody leaving? Is that
Right, we're always going to have, at a department that's close to 100, we're always going to have about 3 or 4 attrition. That's a lot better than a few years ago. We were having 10 plus. And we've kind of turned the corner on that in regard to our retention of personnel. But we're still going to have a few people that are leaving, retiring every year. We have one set to retire at the beginning of the spring. But that leaves a 12-month hole in that position, really, to fill it. We can't fill it for 12 months. And so having that +3 overhire is great. Right now, we're authorized 91. If we get the +1, the FTE, that gives us 92. The 3 overhire would theoretically give us 95 on the books, and we're going to get 95. We have, for January, potentially an all-female recruit class, which is unheard of, or a majority female recruit class for January if we get these FTEs set aside. But having the +3 is terrific right now because that allows us to fit people into those existing spots a lot faster. I think what we're talking about is a couple of years down the road, and ideally, a department our size. You look at Bellevue, again, not apples to apples. Bellevue's about 117 officers, a little bit larger than us population-wise. We don't need to get to 117 anytime soon, but over the next 2 or 3 years, in my opinion, we need to be around 102. 102 police officers with good technology and good non-police supporting the police function is the best thing, and focused like the traffic unit and prolific offender unit, focusing those police officers on specific tasks. That's what we're going to do. We're going to look at quality versus quantity. We're going to look at bang for the buck. We're going to analyze the efficiencies and effectiveness of every system that we're doing and reanalyze it and see what we're getting. And again, the focus is going to be on reducing crime continually year over year in our community, increasing quality of life, reducing traffic accidents. That affects all of us. The biggest complaint that I really hear going around the city is traffic issues and stuff. And so that's where we're building in the next few years, ideally with council support, is the low 100s. And then from that point, when it comes to capital ask or personnel ask, we're at a much slower growth rate.
Okay. That's great to know. Thank you.
Mr. Stell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief Denny, I'd like to thank you for your leadership and your vision. You've really done a good job, an admirable job, and I respect you and want to salute you for that. I have talked to you, I think, once about customer service online, people that need like accident reports and that, police reports for insurance companies and that. Are we able to get that now? I know a couple of years ago, Buffalo County or Kearney was offering that. Do you have a computer that does that?
If I understand what you're asking is online reports and efficiency there, we are looking at making that more efficient. Most of the time, people will come in for accident reports, but that's one thing that we're going to look at transitioning to is online reports. We do a lot of open records reports as well, but if we can move any of our reports, anything that we can give out publicly to an online platform, we definitely do that. That reduces the need for the clerical position as well.
Yeah, it reduces the traffic for people when they can get it online. Also, the inspections that need to be done on vehicles that come from out of state and that. It'd be nice to maybe set up an appointment so you can just do that. And then also, if you have appointments for people that need to get their cars back out of impound.
Vehicle inspections are all done by the county, so they do have to come to the law enforcement center to do that, but the county actually takes care of that. And having our CSOs out at the impound, we're hoping to increase our impound hours of service, the availability, because we will have staff that's dedicated there throughout the day. But you're right, we could look at scheduling people to come get their vehicles released at certain times of the day, because a community this large, there are people that work at various times, and sometimes our hours of operations don't coincide with their job, so.
Yeah. The one thing you talked about was gang officers. I know several years ago, there was a drug problem in Grand Island, and we had several gang officers working that area. Do you still feel like there's a problem with gangs in Grand Island and drugs and that?
My understanding, because I don't, just from a historical perspective, since I've been here 2.5 years, we haven't had quite the issue that they had previously. I think because they made a concerted focus on dealing with a particular park, a particular group, to reduce that activity. In addition to that, one of the other things that we will be focusing on, I had a conversation with a nonprofit group just yesterday, is youth engagement and trying to increase our youth engagement that the officers have with our community. In terms of recruitment, it's great. In terms of mentoring, maybe turning them from falling through the gaps. And so we're looking at teaming with, in this case, a nonprofit soccer group to help with youth engagement. So we're working on trying to increase not only our business contacts and our community contacts in general, but also our involvement with youth. Big Brothers Big Sisters is another one. We've got a few officers that are involved in mentoring and being bigs to some of the kids in Big Brothers Big Sisters.
When I listen to the news quite a bit, and sometimes there's breakdowns in communications between different departments, or like the State Patrol and the Sheriff's Department and other local police departments. Do you have meetings to communicate that with other forces so that there's not a breakdown? Like an example would be the breakdown when President Trump was shot, and the law enforcement people weren't talking to each other. They were each doing their own thing.
Yes, I have in-person meetings quarterly, or at least every 5 or 6 months, depending on people's availability, with the sheriff, myself, the captain from State Patrol, and the county attorney. And so we get together in the same room and talk about overlaps and areas of concern, challenges, where we can support each other. So we do get together and talk face to face, and we all have a very good relationship.
Well, that's good. I'd still, secondly, I want to just thank you for the good job you're doing. Thank you.
Mr. Nickerson.
Yes, thank you, Chief. I always appreciate your presentations and your zeal for your job. Obviously, you love what you do, and that makes a big difference. Some of the things that I've been impressed with over the years that you've been here is you're always looking at reorganizing, making things a little smoother, a little more efficient, changing titles, which confuses me all the time because these two guys now got a new title behind you again, and I've always got to remember their names, so I don't even know what to call them anymore. But you're always looking at ways of improvement and efficiency, and I like that. I really appreciate, and I have for years, no matter what chief we've had, but particularly over the last 10 or so, or even more, the community engagement that we have with our officers that are out in the community. Your personal engagement with the community is important as a figurehead, and then you're getting in there and you're asking questions and you're finding out the pulse of the community and what's really important. Those are all good things. Even at here Grand Island last week, I saw several of our officers there. I even had Mr. Conley there. Some sheriff deputies were there. I mean, it was just a nice turnout of people, but uniformed officers as well that were down mingling with folks, which is always a very positive thing for us. I do have a question about several things you're proposing, and as you know, your vision is unlimited and our funding is not unlimited, so we're going to have to work through that. I have a question for Patrick, and it seems like we have already had a system in place where we had the ability to I'm calling it overhire by at least 1 or 2 FTEs. Has that been correct for a while?
Correct. We have 1 overhire right now, and so we'll have a total of 3.
Oh, it's not 3 additional? It would be total of 3?
I believe it'll be 3 total after this, if this is approved.
Okay, so that'd be 2 more. The budget tends to always show a favorable variance in personnel costs for officers. Is that correct? You said it's one of the biggest things.
2 reasons. For vacancies, we budget the higher insurance. Secondly, there's turnover. So, and to Kevin's point, there's a time period, you're 6 to 12 months empty, and at a step 2 officer, that's $144,000. So.
And our vacancy savings has been in the millions?
Yes.
Okay.
Just right at $1 million.
At $1 million?
Yeah, I think when we were having high turnover, it was closer to 2.
Okay.
So.
All right, so you mentioned something, Chief, that I'm not sure. He talked about high end of insurance, but you said something about hiring people at the top tier level. That doesn't mean we're not budgeting for a step 10 or whatever this is set up for, are we?
So in the budget request, it was at a step 9, which is our highest step, and that's at $174,000. That's with all benefits. But if they're hired at step 2, which I think in most of the time it's either step 1 or step 2, it's $144,000.
So my question is, why do we want to budget at step 9, knowing more than likely they're not going to come in at step 9?
That's just the way the budget request came in. So I don't know. That's kind of a Kevin question.
It's a question I think we need to at least understand why we would over budget people that more than likely are going to come in at the top tier. And so again, we're asking for more money than what we really need because we're 99% sure we're not going to pay that full amount out. That also, probably isn't the same as contributes to our vacancy savings. That would contribute to that vacancy savings because it's budgeted so high? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, so see these numbers grow big when they don't need to be that big. And so I think it doesn't hurt to take, has it always been that way? We've always hired at the budget at step 9? Since you've
I
been
don't
here?
know about the hiring part of it.
Okay, I'm talking about the budgeting part.
The budgeting part is, with it's hard telling because we actually have this new software that's really pretty good. And so you could really decipher which steps, what the cost is. So quite honestly, I'm not sure why this is at step 9.
I would just ask.
But usually, I will tell you in the past, it should have been at step 1 or 2, but with full insurance.
Right. Well, I would think it would make sense to massage those numbers because there's no reason to ask for that much. And I just don't, it's not fair to create bloated budgets that aren't going to be spent, and we know they're not going to be spent. Now, having said that, I agree with the philosophy of the overhiring, and we've talked about that because of the lag time of trying to get officers through the training. There's no problem with that because it's part of that rolling number that we're going to have through the year. I don't see that being a problem at all. I do see a problem of us budgeting people at step 9 when there is virtually no chance that you're going to pay somebody that salary. So I would recommend massaging those numbers to more reasonable. I don't know if it's step 4 is the average, but step 9 is high to budget everything at. You're asking for 1 additional FTE, is that correct?
Correct.
Total, okay. And that seems more palatable than what I remembered in the past, that you might want it up to 7 at one point. So, I mean, you talk about incremental, that's incremental. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, it's worth looking at. I'm okay with looking at that. You talk about some of the positive things on budget savings when we see ammunition donated by a very generous organization here in town. Do you see that continuing to where you can bank on not needing those funds? Just because of generosity, we have an ammunition manufacturer in town that loves.
It's not guaranteed, but we have a relationship with a lot of businesses and a lot of entities in Grand Island. We have a lot of people that, if you build a relationship with them, that they will help or ask you, do you have any needs that need to be fulfilled? So ammunition was a big ticket item, and the canines are a big ticket item as well. And through the generosity of the Grand Island community, we've got that. So I don't expect it. What my focus is to build and maintain a relationship with the community, and that includes the businesses in this community. And through their generosity, I think they will continue their support, but I don't expect it, and it's not guaranteed.
So do you budget for it, even though you know you may get some donations?
Correct.
You budget for it at the full amount that you'd expect, although you get donations?
We do, because we can't guarantee.
That's what and that's my point. So you see a positive variance in ammo because of that generosity. And to your point, I wouldn't want to change that either. I think you can't bank on generosity or changes even in leadership that could occur. Okay, other question that piqued my interest, and I really need to, how my brain works different than everybody else's. When we talk about buying extra cars so that we can save on cars, and I really would like to see a model and an analysis that shows how that works. I don't know if we have that ability, but hiring or buying, what's a typical purchase of police cars? Is it 5? 5 to 7?
Funny you asked that question. So I looked, there was a question that came up tonight, and I looked at the 23, I think it was 23 budget. We got 7 police cars for $400,000. So prices have doubled.
So it'd be 7 cars for $800,000 now, you're
So
saying?
now I think he's asking for 9 for almost $1 million.
9 cars for $1 million. Okay. Well, I'd kind of like to look at that analysis to understand the philosophy. I think mentally it sounds good, but if you're spending an extra $200,000 or $300,000 on the actual vehicle, and then you're saying that we're going to save money, it's a theory that I would almost like to see analytically.
We have a spreadsheet with mileage, age of the vehicles, all the warranty recalls, all the warranty maintenance, and so we can provide that certainly.
Yeah, just interested in how that shakes out. Also, for every one of those vehicles, we need additional insurance, and I don't know what that costs. I'm sure it's not cheap. So anyway, I'd just kind of like to see the nuts and bolts of that to understand that. I don't know that 9 is an acceptable number this year, but I think obviously all things are under consideration at this point. You talked about almost $740,000 in radios, and you kind of inferred, is that like 75 radios, roughly 10 grand a piece? Is that still pretty much?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and these have a warranty, so the ones that we have purchased do have a warranty of, isn't it 5 years?
They come with a warranty. I think, is it 3 or 5 year warranty? 3 or 5 years. Yeah. They come through Motorola, about 10 grand for this right here.
Right, and you're in year 2 or 3 with the first round of
We're in
these?
the third year with this one.
Third year, okay. So it seems to me like we had a 5-year warranty, and I hope that's true. Just keeps them going. Do you have good success with the radios? Do they need many repairs? They've been very dependable.
The repair's been really low, and I have previous experience with these radios in my last 2 agencies. The ones that we had and used, the reliability was very high, and they went well past their warranty period as far as being usable.
So good luck so far with these. We're having good luck with them, you're saying?
I'm sorry?
We're having good luck with these radios.
We are. The battery lives, we're ordering twice as many batteries as radios just to make sure that we maintain enough batteries, because sometimes they will go bad on you. Much less expensive than the radios, of course. Yes, and we do have a succession plan for radios as we continue forward to maintain, so we don't have another big ask.
Right, okay. You talked about, I don't remember this year's budget or if you're looking at your long-term, well, it couldn't be in this year's budget, I don't think, about building maintenance for the new building. I would assume that wastewater and PD would be sharing a person for that building. I don't know that you would have PD with their own and them with their own. I would hope that it's somebody that manages the whole building, unless you have certain things that you just don't trust somebody to go in there and take care of. But I would hope that that's a shared cost, not one person for each side.
Yes, and my goal on this is to be totally transparent with things that we see on our horizon that are continual possibilities of budgetary fiscal budget. That's going to be a discussion we have with wastewater on what that looks like, you know, a collaborative PTE or FTE for that building, and see what that looks like.
Right, I think that makes sense, and one building, one person can cover a lot of territory. Well, the only other thing that I would say is, I guess it's another thing that, what was I going to say? There's another thing I was going to give you a compliment on, and I forgot it already. How can I forget a compliment? I would just question, as we're looking at all of this, as far as the labor budget at a step 9. I don't think that's right. I think we need to take a look at that. I'd like to look again at just this car analysis. I don't know what the number of cars is that we're going to settle on, but again, with the limited funding that we have, we've just got to sort through all of this and know. But good things are happening in the police department. There's no question about that. I appreciate each and every one of you that are doing it. But again, we've got to look at the limited financing, the limited funding, to make sure we can cover the things that are important. And your big plan is, oh, this is my compliment. Here's the one I thought of it. Okay. Part of your reorganization process that I really think is wise, and I've never seen it before, but it's very smart, is when you reorganize, you're trying to reorganize to where you're giving somebody like a little bump up in a position, like a lead person, or something like this, to where we're now, if I'm working at this level, I have an opportunity to be advanced a little bit in my job. You know, I might stick around longer for that opportunity of advancement. And I think those are wise things to look at for stair steps that people can attain, because otherwise we get very stagnant in our job, but you're giving opportunities. And I appreciate the view and the vision of looking at that, because that's important to people to know that there's something more than just what I'm doing today. If I really have an interest in going to the next level, I might get to bump up to a lead person, or I might get to go up to the next organizational step, whatever that is. That's all positive things, and that keeps people, I think, engaged and ready for that next step of advancement. So I appreciate that.
A comment on that is, that's correct. Originally, we had a clerical staff that was just to come in. There was no ceiling there. There was no upper movement. Now, there has to be a justification for that upper movement, and there is. there also has to be, instead of a justification for a person in a position, there has to be a justification for the need for that position. But our department our size, of over 100 people total, certainly needs some supervisor component in an area so they can advocate for those individuals in that area. The front desk clerical staff, for example, has one supervisor to bring the needs of what that area and defend that area when necessary on things that are happening down there. Same with the upper clerical staff. They have a supervisor. We have a lead when it comes to property and evidence, and a lead when it comes to victims assistance. Those 4 supervisor and marginal supervisor positions would report to this now, the new position that we're trying to reclassify into. All of those positions are needed, certainly, that they also provide people that come in at the clerical level to go, well, maybe I want that person's job. And that's a big boost. That's a big boost in retention. It doesn't just have these people come in and learn a skill and leave in 4 or 5 years because there's nowhere to go. Right. There's a possibility of upward movement. The last thing I would want to make sure I mention is that the software is such that when we plug in an FTE, it already calculates it at that level. I don't have the control to change the budgetary calculation of that FTE. And so it comes in, it goes like that. I don't have the administrative ability to do that. So I ask for 1 police officer, it budgets at X for that police officer. I can't change that.
And who would change that, Patrick? How can that, is that an administrative thing that has to be done? Oh, it's already done? Oh, look at that, it's already done. No, I don't know what's going on with that. Anyway, thank you for the work you're doing and the good support group behind you as well, and every other officer that's out there, including those CSOs that, do a great job too, filling in and keeping the community clean, the best of their ability, dealing with stuff that most of us don't want to deal with. But they're there every day doing a great job, so thank you very much.
Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Kevin, I'm a numbers guy, so one of the things I would start with, and I'm not going to belabor it, but I agree with the step thing that Mitch was talking about. That step needs to be down at 1 or 2. The +3 authorized FTE, we've done that before. That's a good thing, given all the reasons we've talked about for years about how long it takes to train and get somebody through the academy. So we're certainly supportive of +3. When we had more open positions, we were supportive of more plus whatever we could get, because we could never get to the authorized position. So we could have added +20 and it wouldn't have mattered because we couldn't get to +100, because we couldn't get to our staffing. But this time, I understand the reason. It makes a lot of sense. On the operating costs, we talked earlier about the Honeywell finding. Honeywell is going to be out there. We heard at a meeting or two before. And now we talk about a new west substation. What's the new budget increase for our operating costs, not people, not capital, just the operating costs of the Honeywell findings and the new west substation? What do you think is our new budget operating cost request?
Actually, right now, the operating cost is minimal increase for the new substation. So the renovations are about $1.1 million. But once we move existing officers and people into that substation, there's going to be a minimal impact on any increased operating cost. We are paying the wastewater public utilities, wastewater department a rent out there. So there'll be minimal impact in the initial move-in to our operating cost. As we go forward, if we decide to add a traffic unit, for example, that would increase our operating costs slightly over the next few years, depending on if we buy electric vehicles for those officers or if we plan to store them out there. But for equipment and personnel right now, over the next 12 months, I think the operating cost is very minimal because we should be moving in the few officers that we do have officed out there probably in the next 6 or 7 months. We'll be moving the code enforcement officers out to the pound. We're not increasing their equipment. We're not increasing personnel in any of those areas right now, so the operating cost would be minimal.
Okay, one of the we have a fleet division. We have a fleet shop, and I know you're talking about fleet sergeants, and so I think the fleet you're talking about is the impound yard, or you're talking about police vehicle fleet?
Well, actually both, because the police sergeant that we have in that position, he is a fleet sergeant, but he's also over the code officers. So he's over 7 people as well, because it's all interrelated what they do. And so technically he is over the impound, the auctions, the tows, everything regarding that. But that fleet sergeant is also over the procurement, the outfitting, and the maintenance of our police fleet, which is about half of the vehicles in the city. So that's a big job for that one person to have in terms of supervisory responsibility and actual daily jobs. I see that person all the time, and they're constantly running vehicles in and out, putting stuff on vehicles, trying to get vehicles to the dealership and stuff like that. So having a police officer in that position is vitally important to assist that sergeant, but also to help the code officers if they're going to go out to potentially a dangerous location. A lot of what code enforcement deals with is interrelated to what we deal with in policing. So having the availability of that police officer to the code officers is a big plus as well. But that officer, the sergeant that's in that position, is doing a lot of stuff right now that's completely overburdening them because of the size of our fleet, the size of our impound, our 3 times a year auctions. And so having an officer to assist that sergeant is really crucial.
So I hope we're utilizing our fleet department, as much as we can, because I come from an organization where I was a fleet manager, and it's one of those is I like utilizing them because I think police officers need to be doing more policing as opposed to fleet stuff. But when you talked about the additional fleet, I'm with Mitch. It's contrary to what my history has been about running a vehicle into the ground, buy extras, will save you money. I have never found that to be true. So I'd like to have you share whatever methodology you're using, because I'd like to look at it as well. Because I don't think it's normally true for the fleets that I've worked with, and I have some experience with the 6 or 7. You're talking about the patrol fleets, those. But what I've noticed over the last 20 years is that our total fleet is increasing. The total number of vehicles in the fleet, continue to increase. So there might be some differences that I'm willing to look at, and so I just like to see the methodology behind the recommendation, because maybe it ends up being 6 or 7 and not 9, but I would like to look at that. I think with the buildings, one of the things I'm seeing a pattern with wanting to have vehicles undercover, in a garage, or and this is you're like the 3rd or 4th department that has made the similar request. Do we know how much it's costing us to put them undercover? And is this at the New West, just at the New West side, or is there something out on the east side that we're doing as well?
No, so there's nothing currently on the east side, and there's nothing that is in the plans for the east side. Originally, we were looking at trying to construct a new building to house these, and that essentially was just a garage. But this collaboration allows us to not only move some office space over there, but have plenty of space to move in our drone vehicle. That's a big vehicle. It's also a negotiating vehicle. It's an old ambulance. Allows us to move our SWAT van over there and our armored vehicle as well. So we can put all of that undercover over there, hook it up to the electrical system. It won't be wet on the inside when we get in there. Everything should be working and it should be charged up. So that allows, that's a huge plus from being out in the weather. So yes, we can put everything undercover on the west side.
I think the last thing, I didn't see the total capital. There just sounded like a lot of capital going on. And I didn't see a page in the presentation or anything how much capital are you requesting next year for the 26 budget? We have a number. I mean, I just hadn't seen a number, so I was.
Sorry, I didn't hear that question.
What was the total capital request for the police budget for next year? Because I didn't see a number. I saw a lot of this number and that number, and I don't know that I could get a grasp of the complete ask.
So it's in the blue.
How much was it?
It's in the blue here, so the total ask is a little over 4 million.
Okay.
So of that 4 million, 1.9 million they did not use this year or will not use this year, so it'll be rolled over. So it's 2.1 million new.
Okay. I think that gives me a better idea of the capital request. And now you talked about fencing, the fencing around the impound yard?
Yeah, it has partial fencing around the north side that we're gonna keep. But when you look at the stakes and the cable, we're gonna replace that with that same fencing all the way around. We've had some instances of cars being broken into and things like that there. Additionally, a few cameras and lighting to help mitigate that and to keep some of those cars, from being messed with.
And then with moving the two staff, the one new one and the existing fleet sergeant, over to the impound building, because right now your hours are like noon to 4:15 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, we have, so we have 7 code officers and the 1 fleet sergeant currently in one office at the LEC. And so the plan is to move all of them, in addition to that fleet officer probably, out to the impound.
But what do you think the new hours would be for community convenience if they had to come out and?
Well, hopefully we can extend the hours during the day, during the week. I'm not quite sure about the weekend. We'd have to look at what the part-time officers can do. But if they're housed out there, their office is there, then it goes to reason that if they're in that building, then they can probably access and allow for customer service there as well. So hopefully we can expand that, them being at the building, because that's where they operate a lot of the times anyway with regard to the big property items, obviously all the vehicles and stuff like that. So
if a vehicle was impounded, we do sell them, what, about 4 times a year?
3 times.
3 times a year. So how long would a vehicle actually sit there before it goes for sale?
The vehicle, if we go through the process for it and it comes up for sale, it's probably there usually, I would say 3 to 6 months. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we have to have it for 6 months before we can then go and request the title on it to put it up for sale at that point in time. So 6 months to sometimes just shy of a year, depending on the number of auctions we have and when it's brought in.
Would the proceeds from the sale of the vehicle pay for the fencing and pay for the improvements you're talking around in the?
Well, we do get a revenue stream from that. That goes to the general fund. So each auto sales, we probably net, 40 to 80,000 depending on the auction. But the police department doesn't see that money. It goes back to the city.
Well, I hope it pays for your capital.
I hope so.
Okay.
The other thing that it pays for too is it pays for the towing expense. So when a vehicle gets sold at that auction, the first thing we do is take back the tow charge that was made for that, and then the rest goes back to general fund. So
Yeah, we've already paid the tow guy. It's just that bill, it just remains unpaid. Okay, well, thank you, Dean. Thank you, Kevin.
Mr. O'Neill.
I have just a few things here. First thing I just want to talk about is on the budget here. So there's a difference between the budget expenses and the actual expenses. And there was a fair amount of discussion on some of the labor stuff here. So when we set a budget, ideally I'm expecting you to set it at something that ideally you'd be under, at least at minimum, not exceed, hopefully. If you had a really experienced officer apply or someone wanted to transfer here, is it a possibility that someone could come in at a step 9?
Yes, as a matter of fact, 2 have over the summer. So we got 2 lateral officers in. And generally when we're hiring police officers, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 would be laterals, for example. And so the 2 laterals that we got in June, one from the county, one from Columbus, were very experienced officers of probably 10 years or more, and they came in at top tier.
And I think Pat was saying earlier that the difference between the step 1 and step 9 was maybe 30,000 in the budget. I think, was that number correct? Or
yes.
30?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the way I do this, I've done budgets a long time, and you want to come in under. And I understand you might not spend that, and if you don't spend it, that's great. But I would just encourage you to set it where you think it realistically should be, that you will not exceed that. If you I didn't want to, pardon the pun, I want to handcuff you if you find a really good applicant like that as well.
Good analogy.
So, yeah. Had to do that. A couple other things too. So I went over and I toured with you guys here earlier this summer. It was really interesting. If you guys haven't done that, I really encourage you to go over this sometime. It was really interesting. I got to meet a lot of people, learn a lot of things. And I think you guys have one data person right now. I believe there's only one. And I think on your 3-year plan, you're mentioning something about a crime analyst as well. I was amazed how much data you guys have. And I've talked to you about some specific things we kind of looked at before. You guys are very disciplined in your queuing system and how calls come in there. You guys have a lot. And I know you have a hard enough job as it is, but I love the focus on trying to find ways to be more efficient and finding trends and things like that. I think those investments will help you guys out tremendously in the future. And you have the data. I think if you had more help to analyze it, it's going to help everybody quite a bit. So I think there's some good things going on there. The last thing that I wanted to touch on too was, I think you mentioned some of the flock cameras, the traffic cameras, whatever you call them. It sounds like those are a really big tool in police work and, again, adding to efficiency. I would encourage you as well to look around for any other cost sharing or interlocal type of agreements with other entities where there may be mutual benefits as well. I think that could be something to kind of help you out with your budget and may even get more done as well. But that's all I have.
There's a lot of potential for that in our community, cost sharing, and I think that's a valid avenue to go down. Those cameras are really an investigative critical need. They've helped us solve a kidnapping out of Idaho, drive-by shooting, and shopliftings and mundane offenses as well. So they're a great tool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Chief, a couple questions. For the reclassification of one position, how much of an increase in hourly pay is it if the council members approve the reclass?
We've changed the number on that recently. I believe that's in the area of 30 to 35,000, but I'm not sure. I can get the exact numbers to you.
That'd be the annual increase.
Yes, sir.
How many vehicles do you have in your fleet?
We have about 50 vehicles in our fleet right now. That includes our criminal investigation division, code enforcement, animal control, I think we count those, and then our regular patrol function as well.
And can you break it down, like how many of your fleet vehicles are used for patrol?
I think 34, is that? 34.
And is that each shift would be using 34?
No, what they try to do is they try to spread the vehicles out so that it's not hot seated is what we call it, so it's not used one shift after another. Some vehicles are, the supervisor vehicle is, but we try to mitigate that and only have the vehicles driven by 2 officers if we can. Right now, I think probably a lot of them are averaging about 3 officers, and we're trying to get that average to 2, so that one vehicle has about a 12-hour resting, each vehicle has about a 12-hour resting period.
How many vehicles are for supervisors?
We have one dedicated supervisor's vehicle. We have 2 for sergeants, and we don't have any right now for a lieutenant. So basically, you have 3 supervisors that share 2 different vehicles. We're subbing in 1 vehicle right now for a lieutenant.
And your K-9 units, how many vehicles do they require?
We have 1 K-9 vehicle that came in 2024 that we just got outfitted. We have 1 that we're outfitting right now for the 2nd K-9.
And your investigations unit, how many vehicles?
16?
8. And your CSOs, how many vehicles?
It depends on if the vehicles are operational or not. So if it's a vehicle that ends up breaking down and we're gonna sell it, then they'll run short. We try and keep the CSOs running short if that's the case, because all of their vehicles are hand-me-downs.
What would they typically run as far as numbers?
6 to 7 at most.
Has there been any cost benefit of using hybrid vehicles?
Absolutely.
And
We-
other than just less fuel, I mean, anything else?
Yes, the maintenance on them is less, we found out, because they're not idling. The idle time is a lot of times what kills a patrol car. You go to an accident scene, it could be sitting at an accident scene for 45 minutes to an hour idling. Whereas in the hybrids, they don't necessarily need to do that all the time, so.
Do the hybrids satisfy all the purposes of your department, or do you have to have non-hybrids for certain functions?
As far as we're concerned, hybrids have been a positive benefit for us.
Are you switching to all hybrids then?
The ones that we are looking to purchase, yes, we're looking to purchase the hybrid side of it. And there's not much of a cost difference between hybrid and gas purchase vehicles.
We were dipping our toe in the hybrid over the last few years because we weren't sure what the batteries would do at 100,000 miles. So far, the cost savings has been pretty good for the hybrids. And so we're increasing our purchase of the hybrids going forward.
Approximately how many vehicles do you auction off a year?
Department vehicles?
Yes.
It's varies on the number of vehicles. If we can keep it around, lately it's only been 2 or 3 because we ended up giving some to the Humane Society. We've tried to keep some. We've actually had a couple that have been wrecked in accidents and totaled out. So if you don't have those things, it's probably 3 to 4. We've had those before in the past where it's 3 or 4 a year getting sold at auction.
What would be a typical or average price you'd get for a used police vehicle?
Anywhere between $3,000 to $7,000, depending on the vehicle and really realistically what it looks like.
So then, as I understand it, for your patrol units, you try to give each vehicle a 12-hour rest.
Like to, yes. But like the chief said, on the one of the supervisor vehicles, it's hot seated, 24 hours a day. It's running, and that's the one that we change the oil in every 2 weeks.
Thank you. I'll see you. I don't think there's any further questions, so thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
We are adjourned.